Boise to London. I don't know if that's a flight or a flight connection, but it could be one day. Good morning, sir.
Hello there. Yeah, why not? I think that we should have a direct flight from Boise to London. And then I can fly one way, you can fly the other way, and we can do a city swap.
Exactly. So do you remember what we were talking about yesterday? I left you with a tease. I can't remember what it was, though. I know it was a great tease, though. You were scared, and you were like, oh, no, Kevin Miller, you're going to get me.
No, what was it again? Oh, I've got a memory like a goldfish these days.
Yeah, well, apparently not. So I'll remember it right when it's time for you to go. Jonathan Savage joining us from Fox News Radio. What are we talking about today, sir?
We're talking about Mexico and what they're doing to crack down on crime. I don't know if you watch a lot of like crime dramas or TV shows, whether you watch The Wire, Breaking Bad, all these things. But if you do, or even if you don't, you'll probably be familiar with the concept of the burner phone. The idea that a phone is purchased, a SIM card is purchased, there's no name to it, you just put it in, prepay, and away you go. Nobody knows who's using the phone or who's using the SIM card. Mexico's trying to get rid of that by forcing everyone who buys any kind of cell phone, any kind of SIM card, to prove their identification with their passport or their voter ID. So every single cell phone in Mexico will have to be registered to a verifiable person. They want to crack down on drug dealing, telephone fraud, extortion, kidnapping scams, all forms of organized crime. Now, the hitch is that the deadline for everyone in Mexico to register their identity to their phone number was today, but fewer than half of numbers have now been registered by the deadline. So rather than cutting off half the country, they've decided to extend the deadline as a staggered method, and by the end of the year, everyone will have to have registered.
Well, again, that'll be a challenge because the cartel is very, very shrewd, very, very smart, and they could come up with ghost people. They could come up with bots. They could come up with a AI Jonathan Savage.
Well, that's a terrifying prospect without a shadow of doubt. Unless, of course, I am AI. You'll never know. The cartels are one of the major problems here. And people will say, yeah, well, they could use fake IDs. It's not that, it's perfectly conceivable that they could do that, but the Mexican government are saying, look, just because some people can get around it, no reason not to carry on anyway, no reason to abandon the whole idea. So what officials in Mexico say is that other countries already require some form of SIM registration, and they're catching up with the rest of the world. Although this does seem to be an awful lot stricter than most other countries do. There are concerns. It's not just the cartels who are objecting to this. Civil liberties groups, privacy advocates say that this isn't a good idea either. They're worried about mass surveillance. They're worried about identity thefts and hacking. But the Mexican government is going ahead anyway.
Our great friend Jonathan Savage joining us. So since we've run out of that topic, we were going back to, I suppose, pro wrestling. We've got AEW. We've got, the SummerSlam preview. Obafemi now taking on Brock Lesnar. The old guy, Seth Rollins versus Roman Reigns. I got to tell you, I don't think that Reigns is as great as people say. He was the champ during the pandemic, but he has not really, when you put him up against the all-time greats, even Triple H, they performed more. They did more. And Roman just kind of saunters in, kind of like you, part-time guy. Comes in when he wants, leaves when he wants. Doesn't do a lot of house shows, although we can't believe there's no house shows anymore. But that's the nature of the business.
Well, like Roman Reigns, I'm only in the main event. I won't go down the card. That's one of the issues here. They have far fewer shows than they did before. So it's a fairly light schedule anyway compared to what Triple H's and Rock's and Austin's would have had to do. But at the same time, he's gone through serious health issues in the past. He's in multiple bouts of leukemia. He wants to spend time with his kids and his family. That is understandable too. And his level of stardom allows him to do that and still turn up at the big shows, still make an absolute ton of money, no doubt, when he's doing so. It keeps him as a big star.
When we're talking about the Bret Harts, the people that carried the company, Roman, and again, maybe I'm buying Seth Rollins, maybe I'm buying somebody else's act. He never did it alone. He needed a wise man. He needed the bloodline. He needed all these people, kind of like you, where I am the 89 version of Ric Flair There is no support team except Bo. There is no this. There is no that. If you don't work for the KIDO Talk Radio Promotions, you've been nowhere in this business, pal. I don't care where you've been and what you've done. Walk that aisle. Be on the dial. That's what I'm talking about. So maybe you're impressed with Roman Reigns. I'm not.
But I think it's all within the context of his era, isn't it? I mean, we're now in an era where the individual star and the match on the top of the card probably means less than it ever did. It's all about the franchise. It's all about the brand. It's all about the overarching marquee, not the individual name on it. And Roman Reigns has positioned himself very well to take advantage of that. And he looks like a big star. He gets a big star reaction. He carries himself like a big star. But obviously he's not the same level as the people we're talking about in terms of the individual influence he has over the company, because he goes away, the company continues just fine. But that's just the era.
Yeah. Well, maybe you like it, but I came up in the Attitude Era. I came up with Jim Crockett Promotions when that meant something. I came up when the people had the opportunity to meet their heroes, not at just some jabroni fan fest where Jonathan Savage appears and goes, "Hi, I'm Jonathan Savage."
I wish I could do a fan fest. That sounds like fun, but it would be a very sparsely attended event.
Well, I have a fan fest idea. So I think I told you about Marshmallow coming. Did I tell you? Maybe that's what it was, how Marshmallow took over Boise. Did I tell you that yesterday?
You did, yeah.
No, they came in with a police escort, and they looked at people and they started beating people up. And I go, "Get that guy, Marshmallow! Get that guy, Marshmallow!"
Oh, right. No, I didn't know quite went that far.
Oh no, he came in with a police escort. I think this is what was the tease. Now, if you have a moment, I know you have to do fill-in fills across the country, but we're here this week.
Go for it.
I always want to ask you if you have any time. So this guy is just so thorough. And I'm an admirer of people that build communities. So this guy comes in, when Taylor Swift wants a song, when everybody wants a song, he composes it. Now, he's not a musical guy, but he's a DJ, and that's a musical instrument itself these days. So the guy comes in, we give him a police escort because he has minimum time to get from the airport to the venue. All of a sudden, he comes in, his people come in, they take over. It's like a security team. They come out, they have their own credentials, they own this, their own that. They say, "Okay, we have the area now. We control the area." The guy goes into his trailer for a minute, comes out. They have black curtains surrounding him until he goes on the stage. So it's just a total controlling of the atmosphere, which as an artist or as a talent or as a reporter, you got to admire that. The details and his security, incredible. Now, again, This is from the reporter we had on scene, but that's what it's like at this level. Remember, it's an outdoor venue. It's this, that, and the other. To make sure that he got there on time, and they were very thorough. Okay, we need to know this, and this. And you're going, now, if he's that way with just logistics, imagine what he is with his music.
Attention to detail. All this adds to the sense of stardom, doesn't it? All this adds to the mystique and the aura surrounding him. If he just, rocked up in a rental car by himself, then people would, "Oh, it's this guy." But I'm not saying he doesn't need all this, but it certainly helps.
Bigger star, Pitbull, Marshmallow.
I feel it because I'm on this side of the Atlantic. It's not. I don't know whether I'd get it right. Maybe over here, Pitbull's a bigger star, but maybe that's my age.
I gotta say Pitbull at one time perhaps, but Pitbull was more traditional. Pitbull was more analog, where this guy, he has a cooking show, and it's 4 million people on the YouTube. Now, I know you're a digital smidgetal. Myself, I'm an AM radio guy, the squared circle. However, a cooking show where literally he is just following the advice of someone, and the production value is incredible on this YouTube video.
Well, you got to have many strings to your bow these days, don't you? Especially in the multimedia world, the online world. You got to. Why not do a cooking show? Very few other DJs have their own cooking franchise, have their own cooking output. So pick it up. Maybe he could do knitting next or something.
Maybe you've been spending too long in Mountsville and you need a good smack.
Well, Yeah, probably. But that's beside the point.
Anyway, Jonathan Savage, anything else you would like to share? I'll keep trying to figure out content because apparently I have to carry this. We've had Mexican phones and we have World Cup propaganda. Anything else you'd like to share with the good people of Idaho, sir?
World Cup propaganda. You're still going down this path, are you? Look. The World Cup is really heating up, and I think you should be watching if you're not watching, because I know that you've got a very narrow understanding of soccer. I know that you've got a history, but you've got a very old-fashioned history, just like your old-fashioned attitude towards professional wrestling. But you'll be delighted to hear that the European teams are falling away. Your arch enemy European nations, Germany and the Netherlands, are out. They have been eviscerated by Paraguay and Morocco. Who will go next?
The New World Order.
The New World Order. And then tomorrow is the chance for the United States to get rid of these Europeans when they take on Bosnia-Herzegovina. The cards are falling. The dominoes are going in one direction. And it doesn't look good for people on this side of the Atlantic.
Does it look good for the NATO alliance when it comes to soccer?
No, it doesn't. Yes, but is that a sign of the times as well? Is there a reason for that? Is it because these NATO countries don't have a good defense?
And that's why you are at the top of your game, Jonathan Savage.
Well, yeah, it's the top of my game, but it's not the top of the game. That's where you are.
My man. Thank you very much, Jonathan Savage. I apologize for forgetting it, but I hope it was the marshmallow thing.
Yeah, if it wasn't, we'll pick it up tomorrow.
Thank you, sir. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Our great friend, Jonathan Savage, Kevin Miller in the morning, KIDO Talk Radio. By the way, got some good articles on our website. Hope you check them out. We're talking about, since it is the holiday season, 4th of July, some type of celebrities you might run into in the state of Idaho. It's not the usual batch, and why one of them, if he's not moving to Meridian, he's definitely going to have a presence in Meridian. Pretty popular guy. Not one of these guys that was popular in the 70s that is here, but this guy's big time. We should call him Johnny Big Time. But anyway, that story on our website, and then a story that we have exclusively detailing the super secret summit of conservatives going on right now in Idaho. Scott Jennings, David Petraeus. Who else is in Idaho? Where in Idaho? Got to go to the station. Got to go to the website, KIDOTalkRadio.com. Check it out. If you're an App Gap Club member, you got that story last night or you'll get it this morning. By the way, speaking of conservatives, Scott Jennings talking about gas prices.
They're not up. They're down. Below $4 a gallon nationally. Oil's trading at $71 a barrel. We don't run the gas price tracker on the screen anymore for a reason, I mean, it's because it's a non-story. The pool was vandalized. You keep bringing up the pool. It was vandalized by people who were so broken-brained about our politics that they went out there and vandalized the pool. It's in the court documents, which you can read yourself today. And as it relates to costs, the Republicans cut taxes. Working people all over this country got major tax refunds. We have a booming job market. We have a stock market that's up. Right now, we have an economy that's on the upswing because of Republican policies, and we've got insane Democrats winning primaries promising socialism all over this country. Those are the facts, and that's the argument that will be carried to the election.
Mitch, I'm going to let you respond, but Scott, on two things. One, on the gas prices, I mean, the president doesn't think they're a non-story because he was sounding like President Biden yesterday saying that these companies are gouging people, saying the DOJ, he wants to look into it, as he was arguing yesterday, because he doesn't think prices are coming down fast enough. So he's been talking about that. But
yeah, because President Trump actually cares. But remember, even Politico. Now you're going to go, Kevin Miller, what's Politico? Politico is one of the big places. I guess it's Axios has replaced it, but Politico became the first online alternative to the DC insiders. Here's the headline. Energy experts said gas prices would stay high. Why were they wrong? The unexpected drop in gasoline prices has given Trump a political boost, even as energy analysts warn the fragile ceasefire and tightening of oil supplies could quickly reverse the trend. Now, again, I love this story. They don't like to read this, to write this. From Scott Waldman, gas prices have fallen precipitously since America and Iran began their fragile truce, defying expert predictions of a long slumber of slog with sky-high prices. Instead of spiraling upward, the average price at the pump has plummeted 70 cents per gallon in a month. Can we say the same in Idaho? Wouldn't that be nice? Wouldn't that be great? Wouldn't that be terrific? It would be. A little over a week since the memorandum of understanding was signed between the countries, a barrel of oil costs a little more than it did before America and Israel bombed the Iranians into the Stone Age. It wasn't supposed to work this way, according to energy experts whose predictions of $150 a barrel, $5 gasoline, summer recessions were widely quoted in the media, including Politico. Wow. How about that? How about that sauce? Didn't play out that way. Where is the gasoline tracker? Where is all this? And you could hear the contempt. And I will tell you, I'm not a fan of Caitlin Collins because, again, I'm not a fan of people with that get on these shows and, she's all talent, but where's the substance? And, I'm sitting there, and I like to watch the shows, but I like to see the talent. And a lot of the libs, with the exception of Laura Ingraham, they're pretty smart, sometimes smarter than the conservatives, because the conservatives are opinion-based. The conservatives, don't want to get into the intellectually muckety-muck. I don't blame them. They're there to serve the fries and the chips, and they go. Now, you go to, primarily I'm thinking of Jesse Waters. Now, very talented guy, very opinionated, very creative, but intellectually, I'm going to Laura Ingraham or Sean. And I'm sitting there watching Caitlin Collins last night, and she's interviewing people, very elementary questions. And you're going to say, Kevin Miller, what do you make of, why are you bagging on Caitlin Collins? Look, she worked as an intern with a Daily Caller, had a look, and CNN hired her, and then they created a show for her. Now she's the White House correspondent at maybe 30. It used to take people years to get that way, and I understand it's a new era, the Gen Zs, the Millennials, the Gen Alphas, out with the old, in with the new. But when you're interviewing people, there's no frame of reference. And I think that's what's missing. So it's just rudimentary, well, President Trump did this, President Trump did that. In the days of hardball with Chris Matthews, you would go back and forth. It might be a little too inside, but it was something you couldn't get anywhere else. So anyway, you look at CNN, and a case in point, you look at Jake Tapper, who worked for years and years and years. Well, he's an old man. Yes, that's not wrong. That's not bad. He has a lot of experience. The guy's been to war zones. He's a lib, but you'll get the context. Anyway, and, you compare a Jake Tapper or whomever else to, the Abby Phillips show where they yell at each other. It'll be interesting to see what happens when the Ellisons take over. However, it's the same playbook. Well, President Trump lost. President Trump this. The Supreme Court that. I didn't hear a lot of liberals complaining about the Supreme Court yesterday, did you? When we broke that story. By the way, speaking of the United States Supreme Court, we've got a big one. We've got the big Watusi. We've got the big Whopper. We've got a boom, 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 shake the room, Will Smith flashback. What's that, Kevin Miller? Today's the day. The last enchiladas, everybody. The Idaho case involving whether or not the boys that say they're girls can play with the girls. Looking for a girl. I ran into a guy. His name was MCA. I said, howdy. He said, hi. It's not a tough, never mind. Dated 80s reference. Moving on. We'll find out whether or not the Protect the Girls in Sports Act stays. And then, birthright. The president yesterday saying this is the most important deal ever. It is the biggest threat to the United States of America. Donald Trump, the grand disruptor, and I know there are some people that call into this program and he drives them crazy. But we always give people their due. And when you take a look at the President of the United States, not a Republican, certainly not a Democrat, certainly not anyone would have the guts to say what he said yesterday. And what he said yesterday was birthright citizenship has to be, revised. He had enough guts to take this thing on, to question it. And what is it, the 14th Amendment, allegedly? So the president gets up there. Remember, everybody's saying, oh, the president's bad, the president's this, the president's that. He gets up there and says, you can't have people coming into this country. You can't have people coming into this country and all of a sudden becoming American citizens. And at least he did something, as opposed to everybody else that said, well, we're going to let the Chinese come in and do their own thing. We're going to let the Chinese come in and we're going to let the Chinese run wild and do their own thing and basically say a hop, skip, a hippity jump and have children in this country that will have the same rights as people born in Homedale, Idaho. They move back to China, and there's nothing they can do about it because it's in the Constitution. Now, the president could have just pieced out. The president could have just said, you know, I'm going to be a how should I put this? I'm just going to be a good President Trump. I'm just going to sit in the White House. I'm going to do my own thing and, you know, coast. But instead of coasting, he's opened himself up to criticism. He's opened himself up to all sorts of things. And he just does it. Now, again, we have the SAVE Act that the president has decided to champion, to not give up on.
Yeah, have you talked with Thune about?
I have. No, I can't imagine why you'd keep a woman that was put there by Harry Reid and Barack Hussein Obama. I cannot understand it. The leader has the right to fire the person at will and put somebody else there. That would be, because we get so many negative rulings from her, the parliamentarian. She's been there for years, and she was put there by Harry Reid and Barack Hussein Obama. Harry Reid was a bad guy. And he was the leader, and he put her. And the speaker has the right to immediately fire her and put somebody else there. And it's not even believable that she's still there. She's obviously a good politician or something.
There we have it, the president from yesterday. And, you know, again, they gave him the opportunity to fire people. They should. He's the president.
Question on the Slaughter case. The Supreme Court just affirmed your right to fire the heads of independent agencies. Should we expect more firings as a result of this ruling?
I don't think so. It gives me the right, and not me, it gives a president the right to do what the president should have the right to do. And it's very interesting. It's a big ruling. It's been going on for almost 100 years. They've been working on this, and you know that it comes down at my term is a very great honor, but it bestows additional powers or maybe the same power on the president. The president has the right to do this, and that has to do with a lot of agencies.
He's right about that. And you know, it's all the libs are going, well, he's affirmed the right of the presidency. He has. And coming up, we'll get his thoughts on birthright citizenship. We are rolling. We are waiting for the Supreme Court to make the big announcement concerning Idaho, concerning birthright citizenship. And you go back to Idaho, and what was it, last year? Was it only a year? It has to be. It had to be in the fall, where you had the Speaker of the House, Mike Moyle, the Attorney General, Raul Labrador, in D.C. hearing the arguments. And I remember the Speaker going, yeah, it's kind of weird when my name's on the Supreme Court thing, going down in history. Will it go down in history, or will it save the Republic? Stay tuned. We're monitoring 580 KIDO. I was going to say Spirit of Boise Balloon Classic. That's next. We don't rest here at 580 KIDO. Sure, we take time off. We enjoy getting away to make ourselves better for you. But Balloon Classic coming up very, very soon. Won't be long. By the way, yes, we will get to birthright citizenship. We will get to the Idaho case in the Supreme Court. But, I'm just opining. What is it today, the 30th of June? So you've got, if you're a school-age kid, if you're a teacher, you got about 6 weeks left. Then it's back with the rest of us slugs. Where is the summer gone? Now, The unique part about Idaho, and Bo, this is a shout out to you. I started looking at the sunrise sunset tables. The unique thing about Idaho is the longest day was the 21st, but we're only losing 10 seconds of sunlight. So really for the month of July, this is what we love about Idaho. Instead of talking about gangbangers here and corruption there, we actually really care about the hours of daylight. So July is the month. You go from 9:30 to maybe 9:29, maybe 9:28 at the end. Now, August, it drops a little bit more. We get back into the 8s, or we get, I think, down to 8:30. We lose maybe an hour. And then, obviously, it's prime time until until March. However, it's Kevin Miller and Bo season until March. However, right now, and let's face it, thank you, Lord, for looking out for us. We haven't had the triple whipple dipple temperatures that we've had. Remember that one summer it got hot in May and didn't stop until mid-September. It's like the reverse of those people in the East Coast that, the summer or the winter stays forever. Like if you're in Pittsburgh, winter goes from October until May, or in New England or New Hampshire or wherever. We're here, the summer, it's like a Richard Marx song, The Endless Summer Nights. I digress. So lots to do in the summer, lots of activities, lots of famous people coming to Idaho. And we'll be having a lot of celebrity sightings. Justin Bieber back in Coeur d'Alene, I believe. The Kardashians, other folks, Allie Larder, obviously Demi Moore, many other people, hanging out in McCall and Donnelly. Did you hear that Donnelly's getting their first stoplight? Is that it? That's a sign of progress, I suppose, in Donnelly. I thought they had one, but apparently they don't. So even Donnelly is bending the knee when it comes to infrastructure. But it's going to be a great summer. It still is. But the Supreme Court thing, we'll be watching, we'll be reporting, we'll be breaking it down. We'll talk about birthright citizenship. I love this quote by President Trump. And obviously we'll cover the local news, if there is any. As you've noticed, whether it's on television, whether it's on radio, wherever. This is the fill-in season. A lot of people are doing fill-in shows. And it's funny, and it used to be maybe it's this way in your business, but in this business, this was the time when you have multiple fill-ins for the great talent. Now, yesterday, maybe you heard Sean talking about, as I predicted he would, his use of prednisone and his throat. Now he's back, and he and Linda are back. I mean, I'm sure he's only back till Wednesday. Maybe we'll get a day or two more out of Sean. He needs to rest, get that voice rolling. He's got a big season coming up with the midterms. But, if you ever wanted to go to a bigger market, you would, let's say Kevin Miller aspired to go to Salt Lake. Salt Lake has always intrigued me since I had an LDS roommate in the Army. And Salt Lake City in our region is a nice-sized city, not as crazy as Denver or Phoenix or Portland or Oregon. Still has some great values, but you've got the loons. So I've always been fixated with that place. I've only been there like 3 or 4 times, but let's say I aspired to go to Salt Lake. And again, we used to do fill-ins in Salt Lake. I'd call up Rod Arquette, and I'd go, Rod, I'd love to fill in for you, Rod. And then the people that have to work there, we just wanted to, no, we have to deal with this guy from Boise, the Boise bad boy. And you would do some shows and all that. So nationally, you're going to have a lot of people. I think Lars is off on Friday and Monday, he told us. But really besides that, and you're going to see this on television a lot of people getting their opportunities working nonstop. But for the rest of us, it's time to enjoy America, fireworks. What did I hear somewhere that, I think I talked about this yesterday, where Eagle is actually going to, people calling into the Eagle Police Department, they're going to go out and prosecute people, which I agree with, for shooting off the fireworks. We have this story on our website, Utah banning illegal fireworks. So in neighborhoods and stuff, because the fire threat is so bad. But again, thankfully, we haven't had the horrific triple digits. And I hope that stays that way. We roll on to traffic on 580. Before we get to birthright citizenship, we're going to go to Al in Ontario. And we're going to find out what type of entertaining commentary Al is going to give us today. Is he going to be a good little boy, or is he going to call us all idiots? Stay tuned, true believer. The action starts now.
Okay, I'm going to give you a triple whipple dipple. How about that? Okay? And so here's the thing, Kevin, what you need to understand is this. You deserve great credit. You really do, because you have the arena of ideas. But what we have to do is define your arena, okay? And, you know, is it some little arena where you have Shetland ponies and little girls in there, or is it the UFC? It's the UFC, baby. That's the First Amendment. Okay, we don't have sissies in here. Okay, listen, I have terms of endearment for you. Okay, and what is that? Liberal, rhino. Those are my terms of endearment for you.
My man. Hold on. Let me just say this. Hold on. Let me give you props. That was amazing. Please continue.
Okay, so listen, you're going to know we're getting close when I call you a crackhead, okay? Then we're real buddies, okay? Then we're going to be real buddies. You'll say, wow, man, I'm getting really close to Al, man. We really need to go out and have dinner or something. Okay, the reality is this, Kevin. The arena of ideas is messy, just like the UFC. Okay, Hockett, going up against Blade. Okay, that was a bloody mess, right? It's got to be a little bloody. Okay, it's got to get a little messy. All right, and what happens is, of course, I start giving you the ground and pound. I give you the ground and pound, and what happens? You got to tap out, baby. But hey, look, you give me enough time to get in some haymakers, okay? So the ground and pound, you got your little button there. Oh, I can't take it anymore from Al. So you got to tap out. You tap out your little button, and that's all good. That's all good, because guess what? I'm here to inform. I'm here to help you understand. Yesterday you said I wasn't talking about the SAVE Act. Yes, I was. I was talking about the SAVE Act. I'm talking about the citizen birthright. I'm talking about everything that's really cultural Marxism. It's all the same. Everything's connected. Remember what Da Vinci said. Everything is connected to everything else. Learn to see. And so that's the thing, Kevin, that you have to realize. You got to get in people's face these days. This ain't the 1980s. Oh, Reagan. Oh, yeah, well, let's all be nice guys. That ain't what this is. That's ancient history, okay? And the rhinos and everybody else, what they want to do is they want to play these games like we're living in the 1980s. We're not. Okay, I mean, we need to change. Okay, unless you want your progeny to have like butterflies fly up their progeny's giggy, and those butterflies are really Chinese drones. Okay, disguised as butterflies. Okay, so the whole thing is, what we're talking about here is we're talking about life and death. That's really what we're talking about. So to say, oh, well, we're on this little spectrum, and people are, oh, well, we're going a little bit right or a little bit left. No, we're talking about life and death for your children and grandchildren. That's what I really believe, and I'm going to tell you what I believe. Okay, and if we don't get our stuff together, and we don't realize that this Marxist feminism, okay, is turning us into a bunch of sissies. Oh, words. Oh, you said words. You heard I don't care. Say any words. I don't care. What the heck does that have to do with anything? Let's get some argumentation going on here. And say what's going on with our military. We need to be very, very concerned about our military. And we have to understand that our military is really a reflection of, those people who are in charge. And who are these people in charge? I mean, these people, they came up as second lieutenants and they're bureaucrats, and, that's all they know. Ask them about military philosophy. Ask them about military history. Oh, how many women with big old ponytails did you have in the Roman legions? Okay. Yeah. Oh, yeah. The centurions, they went out and they got women with big old ponytails. We got, what are all these ponytails doing in the military? We feminized everything. Stop feminizing things. Oh, well, you said a word. You said breastises. Well, no. I mean, who cares? You know, we've got legions and legions of people to try and keep our military, from saying the wrong words, from offending somebody. Look at Kevin, when I went in the 70s, they offended you on purpose. You were offended on purpose. I mean, that's what you do. You know, everybody needs to be offended. If you're not offended, then, I mean, come on, man. Wake up and smell the coffee. That's what it's all about. Human interactions, right? And argumentation to bring us to the point where
I don't think people believe in that anymore. I mean, you have the CNN show, the Thunderdome. Dude, I believe in it, but who knows if I know what I'm doing anymore? I mean, I've got you calling me a liberal loon rhino.
I know, but
you may not be wrong.
That's the brilliance of the Kevin Miller show. Okay, I mean, if I was going to say something, I'm going to say that's the brilliance. Okay, the fact that you understand that what I do is freedom. It's America.
Yeah,
it's you and me engaging in dialogue. And it's not going to be nice dialogue, and it's not going to be always, this, that. No, it's got to be messy. Okay? I mean, the founding fathers, okay, when they got it, when they got into arguments and they did things, I mean, it gets a little messy, right? But
it was brutal. Al, thank you for the call. Mess and more. Sean Hannity today at 1 on 580 KIDO. And do want to thank everybody who was a part of it. Do want to thank the staff, the management, the supporters, the sponsors, Shane, Lee Joe, Eric, Patriot Ray's son, Ray Jr., Tea Party Bob. We had so many people show up. It was a remarkable event. And really, when you're in the thick of things, you don't really understand the impact of free. And again, we'll be talking to Ron Grant, and he always used to say fee, but free. And it's funny, I've got this guy online, the tater going, ha, Kevin Miller, they're charging for tickets. Yes, but you can win your tickets. You don't have to pay. You didn't have to pay to be in, and most people didn't. And just to be a part of that. And again, to be the conduit, not that I purchase tickets, but that people that listen to this program, I believe I met Christy. Christy gave me a big hug as well because she played the 580 KIDO game with Kevin Miller. And it was just nice to see people excited. Rain, nonetheless, it was the spirit, just unbreakable. We are monitoring the Supreme Court. We'll see what happens there, whether or not it's the last day of the session, so I guess we will find out about birthright citizenship and how it impacts Idaho. Here's the president.
What are your thoughts, birthright citizenship? What are your thoughts, and will you accept it if it rules against you?
Well, I guess I have to accept it's the Supreme Court, so I'll accept. I think it's very bad for our nation. We're the only nation that does it. No other nation does that birthright citizenship. No, it's not even close. Some did it, they ended it. It's tremendously destructive. It's extremely costly. I don't know, it's up to them. But in terms of for the good of the country, it would be great if they didn't allow it. It would be great. But I can't tell you, the Slaughter case was the big case today. That was really a big case because it gave strength to presidents and strength to the presidency, a very important case. It's been going on for almost 100 years, think of that. And this was the ruling that really topped everything by a lot today.
And by the way, thank you to our friends at Newsbusters for collecting that. The president, it's so funny. These stupid reporters, and they are stupid. Should we say silly? No, in honor of Al in Ontario, stupid. How are they stupid? Let's go.
Birthright citizenship is next. What are your thoughts? Birthright citizenship. What are your thoughts, and will you accept it if it rules against you?
What do you mean? Are you going to accept it? What's the president going to do? Like Michael Scott in The Office? I declare bankruptcy. I declare I don't accept it. Huh? Now, what are we looking for today? from Idaho, about Idaho. The Supreme Court is expected to rule on Idaho's transgender athletes case. We'll find out. We'll expect it to release its final opinions on the term. Oh, this isn't the Moyle case. This is Little v. Hecox and West Virginia versus BPJ. Oh, well, the defense of the women. The Idaho case stems from the state's 2020 Fairness in Women's Sports Act, the first law of its kind in the nation. Thank you, Barbara Earhart. Thank you, Governor Little, for signing this. The law requires public school and college sports teams to be designated based on biological sex and bars transgender girls and women from competing on female teams. So, and remember, the Idaho people tried to piece out of it when it was going to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court said, nope, we're going to roll. We're going to roll. Now, a lot of people are saying that this will determine, this Idaho case will determine federal law. Federal courts blocked enforcement of the Idaho law while the case moved through the courts, finding Hecox was likely to succeed on claims of the law that it violated the Constitutional's Equal Protection Clause in Title IX. I don't think that Title IX that created all these wonderful sports. By the way, Title IX created by a Republican, Richard Milhouse Nixon. For not Milhouse from The Simpsons, Richard Milhouse Nixon. And you wouldn't have Caitlin Clark. You wouldn't have any of these amazing athletes that are females without Title IX. Now, Title IX and others could be going away because of the gambling, because of the incredible money being put on, based on sports. But right now, Title IX is still relevant, which means you have to offer funding for women's sports. How can you do that if you have someone who's biologically not a woman, but they've transitioned and now they're competing? It is not fair. And again, it's very strange. The forest for the trees, why the loons, the Democrats, don't get this. You're not attacking someone who has decided that looking for a girl, they ran into a guy, or dude looks like a lady. You're not attacking them. You're basically saying, and we've turned any type of, hey man, I don't agree with that, into you're horrible, you're toxic, a form of silencing dissent. That's what we've turned this into. So when you have men versus women, the men always win. The men always win. A story that I should have written about, and maybe I will. Did you hear about this one? The University of Washington women's soccer team, they played either a high school team or a middle school team of boys, and the boys killed them. Now, we're talking about Division I athletes. Division I athletes that are the best of the best getting smoked by little boys. Imagine, and it was, the Daily Wire? I remember my son-in-law, Ryan, said, you got to watch The Ballers. And I go, huh? I go, you're watching The Daily Wire? It was a show that, again, a very simple premise. And it's like bosom buddies on steroids. If you know that reference, God bless you. It was Tom Hanks before he became Tom Hanks. It was a story about two guys in New York City that could not get into an apartment, so they dressed up as women. They were still men that liked women. They didn't take hormones, but they dressed up as women and lived with women and were essentially women. So what the Daily Wire did was they took the premise of bosom buddies and they had men with beards and everything else saying they were women, and they were playing basketball, and they turned a team of nothings into something. Very, very tried and true, old standby Hollywood premise, and they made $10 million on it. Who would have thought? More on that in a minute. 580 KIDO traffic. Let's get you to work the right way. Good morning, Dave.
Good morning, Kevin. From the Pacific Steel and Recycling Studio, still dealing with that accident, I-84 eastbound past Garrity on the left-hand side before you get to the county line. It is slowing traffic back into Canyon County right now. Once you get past that, we're looking good on the freeway. Now's the perfect time to save money and get that annual maintenance done on your AC. Perfect Plumbing, Heating, and Air. They'll tune up your AC for $29. Call Perfect or schedule online at callperfectnow.com. I'm Dave Burnett. That's your traffic now on KIDO.
Yeah, and by the way, thank you very much, Bo, for reminding me my beloved Germans got knocked out. It's not a good World Cup for NATO. By the way, you're not going to hear this anywhere else. Apparently, the ratings for the World Cup, they're down in the knockout rounds because they're actually competing now as opposed to being the cheerleading games that we had before. It really comes down to Team America. If they can pull this off, great. But when you see the Europeans going down, it's not a good day for NATO. Coming up next hour, more of your calls. Liberal Steve has a question about Megyn Kelly. I hope he calls in. I'd love to expand on that. The president in Idaho waiting for this big decision from the Supreme Court. We will be ready to roll when that happens. Get your thoughts on this. And really, you could be the Supreme Court next hour. Do you agree with the Idaho law? This portion of the program brought to you by our friends at Window World Boise, windowworldboise.com. Thank you all for joining us. 580 KIDO Fox News. Good morning. Phone numbers, you know them well. The website, KIDO Talk Radio. Without further ado, let's go to Blair in Boise. Blair, good morning.
Hey, Kevin. How are you this morning?
Not bad. Still trying to recover from being out in the cold all weekend long. And you?
Yeah, well, I still think we live in the greatest land in the world. But these Supreme Court cases that we've got both yesterday and today are really telling in one thing, and that is our legislatures. They could have passed laws to fix all of this stuff, and yet they refused. And I'm not talking about the Idaho legislature. I'm talking about the United States House of Representatives and Senate, right? Because that's where our laws are supposed to originate from. And it's a sad state of affairs when they delegate everything to the Supreme Court to decide. Because where does the power to define immigration and naturalization reside? It resides in the House, not in the judiciary. They could have overturned Kim Wong-Ark 100 years ago. They could have. They could have said, "Sorry, but we're gonna tell the Supreme Court that the laws in the United States are going to go a different way." The fact that we have to take everything to the Supreme Court and have the Supreme Court decide what our laws are it's a travesty, because that's not what the original foundation of our country was supposed to be. Our elected legislature in the House and the Senate, and not the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court was supposed to be the weakest of the three branches of government. And it seems like we've just abandoned that and given them the power to define our lives. And we saw how well that went with the burger courts in the 40s, 50s, and 60s when they passed a whole bunch of, they succumbed to FDR's threats to pack the court and started, passing things that, fortunately, our current Supreme Court is finally starting to overrule some of those, like they overruled Chevron. They passed the Bruin case to reinstate our Second Amendment rights. Yesterday's slaughter was a great decision, that it gave the executive, back the power to fire executive branch employees. That's a huge, huge, huge big deal. Now they ruled against President Trump when it came with regards to the FCC, but that's because the FCC had a special charter in it from Congress. But you look at the birthright citizenship case. There's probably no more influential case in 100 years than that one. You can argue Chevron might have been it, but President Trump is right when he says there's no other nation on earth that allows people to come there, have a child, and have that child be automatically considered a citizen of that nation. There's no other nation that's that silly. We're the only one. So I hope that the Supreme Court does it right, but I am just disappointed that our elected representatives don't have the guts to pass the laws and make this a moot point. and make this so that it never has to go to the Supreme Court in the first place.
Well, I think you bring up a very good point. I think the problem here is, with all due respect, what does Congress do? What has, with all due respect, what has this session of Congress done? The Democrats have done a brilliant job of basically running out the clock on us. We had everything. We had, I mean, give it to the libs. When they have everything, they're passing loony legislation. We've had a government shutdown. We've had Republicans rebelling against the president. We've had the president changing the rules as it goes along. We've really gotten absolutely nothing done legislative-wise. The president has not codified his executive orders, which means when the libs come in, they all goes back to Looney Tunes. There is not, and I get it. I mean, I think the president is kind of tired of carrying the ball by himself. Where's the backup? There isn't any.
Well, and a lot of that is due to one individual, and that's John Thune. He's the Senate Majority Leader, and he has been unwilling to make the hard decisions. He's been unwilling to caucus to pass the president's priorities. He's been unwilling to because he's been one of the main Republicans that's standing against President Trump in a lot of these changes. I don't know why. Because isn't he from North Dakota, South Dakota, one of those two? I mean, that's not typically one of your blue states. I don't know why he's so hesitant, but he's been the one that, because they've been able to get stuff out of the House, slim margins, yes, but they've been able to get stuff out of the House. But he refuses to bring them up in the Senate. But that's where the SAVE Act is stuck. It's stuck in his pocket because he doesn't want to bring it up. And yes, we do have, the left is going more to the left. They are already, beyond the bleachers out of left field. They're clear out in the parking lot. They're not even in the stadium anymore. And if we get more of these socialists that take power in government, I really fear that there will be no turning back, because socialism is completely incompatible with the vision that our founders had for this country. It really is. Those two don't work together. Never have, never will.
Well, and then we have the threat of the loons that they're coming for the Democrats.
Well, this really started back in the 90s, right, with President Clinton. This started back during his terms when you started getting that's when we started getting these socialists that would kick out they used to have what were called blue dog Democrats, which were, they were still socially, fairly to the left, but at least, fiscally they could be, reasoned with, and we could pass reasonable budgets. But all of those started going down as the Democrats started drifting left, and we don't have any blue dog Democrats anymore. Now those people are called libertarians. But we just keep seeing a push towards the left, and we've drifted even past what used to be called, what an FDR liberal. We'll call it an FDR liberal because the original meaning of the word liberal was something completely different. But we've gone even way further to the left than the FDR liberals, and that's saying something. We've now drifted into pure socialism, and that has never ended well for any country that has ever tried it. You've had, millions upon tens of millions of deaths. You've had starvation, you've had deprivation. The economies of those nations collapse. You can't point to a single nation on earth which has adopted socialism, which has thrived. Not one. And we are the last bastion. The other big reason why that matters is religious freedom. America was a pioneer in its formation for protecting religious liberty and allowing people to pursue happiness according to their beliefs. Every other nation on earth prescribed, you have to believe this, you have to believe this. We were the first ones to give people a choice. And if we lose that, every place on earth, they'll have no refuge. And I fear what happens to the human race when that happens, when thought is criminalized to the point that we can't believe in God. We can't, express our gratitude to God. We can't try to do things that will make our kids happy because we follow the commandments of God. If we ever get to that point in this world, humanity's done. And I really hope we're not going down that road, but these characters that call themselves socialists, they're terrifying to me.
It really reminds me of the 1930s.
Yeah, to a certain degree. That was when you first had the first big push after Woodrow Wilson. Because Woodrow Wilson, he was not a very popular president because he advocated for a lot of power in the presidency, and he was really pushing hard for socialism. He was a socialist. He was also a KKK supporter. He was the one that brought back the KKK. He was the one that advocated for the League of Nations, for an abandonment of U.S. sovereignty, and the stock market fall and stuff there in the late 20s, leading into the 30s, was a result of a lot of socialist policies that were starting to get passed. And then we had the major crash, everybody backed off, and then we had World War II. But yeah, you're absolutely right that, our country's been drifting this way for 100 years, and if we don't reverse course, we're going to end up in the same hole that every other nation which has pursued socialism has gone down, and I really don't want to go there.
Well, but again, and this gets Tea Party Bob mad and Al mad, but I would argue that we are a socialist nation now, and I'm not talking about people that are on government assistance. I'm talking about the president, his predecessor, giving corporations money to succeed. Now, maybe that's the world we live in because China has changed the dynamic. They've figured out our system and are beating us at it by not playing by the rules. And you have to do that. But you could argue we are truly a mini quasi-socialist nation right now.
There's definitely some truth to that. I mean, are we a nation that values freedom and the liberal distribution of freedom to its people like our founders did? No, absolutely not. A lot of that you can attribute to the personal income tax, the 16th Amendment. You really can't, because one of the side effects of that was not just the taxation of every person in the United States for their income, but it was also a prohibition on free speech, because you no longer had, because now every single organization, religious or otherwise, now had to worry about its tax-exempt status. It used to be that the arena of ideas was, your local congregation as much as it was the town hall. That stopped with the passage of the 16th Amendment. That would be the first, if I were emperor for a day, that would be the first one I would axe, is the 16th Amendment. I believe it's that horrible. We really need to get back to the point that we can discuss political ideas anywhere and not be harassed by the IRS for doing so. But there's that. And you also got, the huge expansion of the welfare state, the huge expansion of the federal government and all its programs, where it used to be that that the United States people took care of its own. The charities that were established in the United States, they took care of everybody. You didn't need the government to be, mommy and daddy for everybody. And in fact, that's very dangerous because we've now encouraged women to leave the workforce or to enter the workforce and leave their kids in the hands of babysitters all day. And that's incredibly dangerous too, because not only do the kids not go into school knowing how to read, you're leaving them to somebody else to raise culturally. That's, if you ever want to degrade your population and let them and encourage socialism, that's the way to do it, because that's exactly what socialism calls for. It says that, the state is mother, the state is father, that you don't need family anymore. I take issue with that. family is what gave us our great nation, and if we allow it to be destroyed, so we will follow. So anyway, I appreciate you, Kevin. I just have to tell you, your lemonade. You bring the nice spice to life with a little bit of sugar. Your lemonade, and I love it. I love it. So,
my man, Blair, we appreciate you, and you're the spoon that stirs the lemonade. So thank you very much. Appreciate you.
I'll talk to a few ice cubes. We'll have a nice drink together.
Yes, sir.
I appreciate you, Kevin. KIDO 580. There you go.
My man, thank you, Blair. Appreciate it. Always great to hear from Blair, the intellectual of this program. You see, Al, this is how you have a reasonable discussion. You don't sit there and scream and yell. You go back and forth. And when we're talking about the Bolsheviks that are probably smiling right now, yesterday we were talking about a big threat to America. We really didn't get into it. And these Chinese automobiles. Now, Dave Petzel will be with us on Thursday, our last day of the broadcast week. And let's just kind of go over what's going on here, because we are in the wacky season. So we will be here we will be off on Friday. Then next week, I will be working until Thursday. And then it is my sabbatical, where we go to the Oregon coast. We try to figure out what we're going to do with the rest of our lives. And then we come back. So vacation a little early. And that will begin on the 10th of July. And I will miss you all very much, and I love you all. But those are the announcements, and I'm not doing the usual Kevin Miller just disappears, so we'll have more of that. But we're here till Friday of this week, and then next week, 4 days this week, 4 days next week. So I've had like 3 weeks in a row of 4 days, which is now if you could start the workday week on Wednesday and end it on Thursday, that would be great. And I don't know about you, but have you ever gone through a phase in your work career where you wake up on Tuesday and you think, dude, man, what a week. The first thoughts are, I'm so happy it's Friday. And then you realize it's only Tuesday. This is the third week in a row that's happened to me. I don't know if it's happened to you, but I do want to say I don't want to be lost in the euphoria of the holidays, where everybody is just talking about, oh, I can't wait, and a lot of people aren't working. A lot of people are working, and they're going to be people that work through the holidays until the humanoids take over, which scares the living out of me. There are going to be people that are going to be working deliveries. There's going to be people working, obviously, over the holiday, hospitality, and everything else. And then we'll just call them the Greg Ferreros, the uh-ohs. The uh-ohs will be working, because the uh-ohs are going to be around if something happens. Tragically, people break bones, people blow out their knees, people get hurt, animals. Oh, my goodness gracious. Unfortunately, it happens all the time. It shouldn't happen. It can't happen. But when it does, thank goodness we have the dedicated professionals that are there to take care of us. Just keep them in mind. 580 KIDO. Plus, what cities you'll find famous celebrities that live in Idaho, like Allie Larder of Landman, like a lot of other folks, liberals, conservatives, a lot of liberals. Every year we get Arthur Fonzarelli coming in, Henry Winkler, who loves to fish in Idaho, loves Idaho. Doesn't really love the president, probably doesn't love our politics, but it's great to see the Fonz. Hey, the Fonz. Hey. And you're going to go, oh, that sounds so anti-Me Too. You would be very, very correct on that one. We're monitoring the Supreme Court. We're going to find out whether or not Idaho can ban biological men. The country can ban biological men in female sports. By the way, I'd love to get the WNBA's thoughts on this. The WNBA, again, another example of people promoting and propagandizing a league that, oh, yes, it's the Sparks and the Schmarks are on. Is it going to draw the same as the men? No, it's still subsidized by the NBA, still a money loser. But still, it's okay to pop Caitlin Clark. It's okay to talk about how bad things are, and I don't know why people would tune into it, but they do. We move on. Let's see. James Carville with our friends on Fox talking about socialism. I hope he doesn't swear, but if he does, we're going to dump him. We're going to dump you, James.
How people describe themselves at all. That's one thing. How they vote is another. Jason Crow, we've recruited veterans all across the country, vote vets. We've been in a lot of seats like that. And these are the kind of Democrats that I want to help and be a part of the same party. I don't have anything in common with Ms. Chevalier, and I really don't want to be in the same party she's in.
I got to give it to James Carville. James Carville is provocative. James Carville is this. James Carville is that. But James Carville was a Marine. Once a Marine, always a Marine. And Carville, he doesn't want any part of that. Carville knows. Carville knows. It's like, hey, man, this ain't good. This ain't good. So we'll continue to monitor. But let's go back to the point that we talked about with Blair. And this is for Republicans as well as Democrats. Look, we love our members of Congress. Certainly we support them. But in reality, it has been probably one of the more frustrating sessions. When you have the libs, when they take over, they're passing this, passing that, all sorts of craziness. And really, what are we doing? We've let the clock run out. Now we have the midterms, and we've got a challenge. We're down 21-7. We are down 21-7, and, we're going into the fourth quarter. Now, the good news is the other team has a goofy type of offense that stalls a lot. The bad news is when we had a lead, when we had the momentum, we didn't know what to do with it. We go back to Trump won. And I remember Trump won. I've been around long enough that I remember Trump won. The president had everybody. That was the Paul Ryan Congress. And he said, okay, you guys have wanted to get rid of Obamacare. All you said is all you needed was a Republican president. And a Republican president and a Republican Congress, and we're going after Obamacare. Now, the president, the mistake that he made was not doing infrastructure first. The president should have done infrastructure, much more bipartisan, and in the end, the Republicans didn't have a plan to fix Obamacare because it's unfixable. The cure is worse than, just maintaining it. It's kind of one of those things that just goes on and on and on and on. And they, again, now we've been tough on the Republicans in Congress, but thank goodness they're there. Have they launched investigations? Have they done the right things? Have we found out a lot of things that we would never have found out before? Yes. But somehow we've just kind of not moved the needle when we needed to move the needle. Like I said, we are monitoring the Supreme Court. Another thing that has to be taken care of, which we'll get to after the news, is this one.
The Justice Department is suing Massachusetts and Rhode Island for providing in-state tuition and financial assistance benefits to illegal immigrants. The DOJ says such laws are unconstitutional and discriminate against U.S. citizens who are not afforded the same benefits. The department says similar lawsuits are also pending in Illinois, Minnesota, Virginia, California, New Jersey, and Kansas.
If this is one of the only things these guys get done, honestly, when a country discriminates against its own citizens, we have gone too far with our empathy and humanity. So essentially what we're saying, and God bless you, Constitutional Jack. God bless you. God bless you. God bless you. That what he used to shout out to the Chinese that monitor this program. You can come in here from China or Mexico or Germany. You don't pay a dime in taxes. You don't give a rip about America. You don't even have to speak the language. You don't have to speak American. And dummies in Massachusetts, Rhode Island, California are going to give you an opportunity to get a free education paid for by said taxpayers whose kids can't get the same benefits. Now, you want to talk about BS. You want to talk about racism. You want to talk about inequalities under the law. There's no greater example. No greater example than that. You know, we had affirmative action running crazy. You try to get into Harvard, and if you're not a minority, if you're not African American, you're not getting into Harvard. Well, too many white people. Okay. Too many Asian people. Huh? Well, because the Asians have figured out the system. And, you know, when you take a look at their culture, American Asians, Asian people, Americans of Asian descent, I look, to me, everybody's an American, dude. And, Kevin, you've lived in the South. You've said inflammatory things. You say this. You're right. I do. But in the end, if I'm not going to say something in somebody's face, I'm more of, and Al, this is where he's going to call me a sissy and a little girl. I'm more about bringing people in than kicking people out. And that's the influence Idaho has had on me. That's the influence you people have had on me. And you have people that, and I've been around people that, we all have. You've been around people. They come to this country, and they either work at a place or they work hard enough to get ownership in it. And they go, wow, look at them. They've got a nice car. Yeah, but to pay for that car, they're working 14 hours a day. Their job is their life. Their life is their job. They serve. They give good customer service. They have excellent food, excellent this, excellent that. And before you know it, they have made it in America. And their kids are second to none academically. They are driven to success. While Kevin Miller's having a Swanson's TV dinner, these folks are doing this, this, and this. And God bless them. They should not be denied an opportunity to go to the best of the best in this country. Well, blah, blah, blah. No, not at all. So, and it doesn't even come down to money. I believe, truly, you want to help folks, it should go to social economic status or socioeconomic status. And then you give them the opportunity, regardless of race, creed, color, whatever. But to sit here at 580-5436-580-KIDO and allow this BS to go on.
The Justice Department is suing Massachusetts and Rhode Island for providing in-state tuition and financial assistance benefits to illegal immigrants. The DOJ says such laws are unconstitutional and discriminate against U.S. citizens who are not afforded the same benefits. The department says similar lawsuits are also pending in Illinois, Minnesota, Virginia, California, New Jersey, and Kansas. The Justice Department is suing Massachusetts.
Okay, Brett, we got that. Love to get your thoughts on this issue next. Kevin Miller, 580-KIDO. 580-KIDO, we are monitoring the Supreme Court. Breathtakingly so. What's going to happen? Will the Supreme Court uphold Idaho law? Will Brad Little be successful once again? Will the Supreme Court save America? A lot of drama before Clay and Buck today. Of course, then we have not only Clay and the Buck, but we've got, I think, just Buck this week. So it's a very different show without the Clayster. And then when Buck's gone, then Clay's there. It's a great show. We love having them aboard. We love having them aboard the franchise. Obviously with Sean Hannity, great to have Sean back, and Sean talking to Linda about his voice, the prednisone, such personal insight. And again, our man Lars bringing us home, then Glenn Beck and George Norrie and so many other folks here. Let's go to Chandler. And Chandler reminds me of a guy I used to work with. And we called him the Grenade because he would just blow things up. This guy, one of the great broadcasters that a lot of people will never know, his idea of a good time was going into the Hurricane Hunter planes, and it was radio, and I'm like, what did you do? And then going to war zones and all sorts of craziness. So, Chandler, you have quite the honor of being known as the Grenade.
Wow. Oh, man, that's quite an intro, man. Jeez. I do like heckling Democrats in fun, creative ways. So regarding the topic of today with the Supreme Court, so Kevin, you need to tell me you have doubt that the court that got Dred Scott wrong. They got separate but equal got wrong. Brown, then it is not right. And Chevron deference, you can go down the litany of things. The best way to describe this court is very simply, if you want to understand the logic of it, if it comes to institutional power and the status quo and letting people, rich, powerful corporations and business interests succeed, they'll get a ruling in their favor. Like the tax case. I mean, basically, the government takes away somebody's house because of a tax payment that was property tax that wasn't paid. They sell off the house. They keep the money. Boom. You just created a reason for true fascism of government confiscation of assets, and we're all at risk. And the fact that these idiots can't even understand that, I mean, they live in a really world world. I mean, I have a hard time taking serious somebody who puts on a robe and appears out in public and expects to be taken seriously. If these clowns would work as greeters at Walmart for just a week, just manual labor, now I understand why when the communists seize power, the first thing they do is take the intellectuals and put them to work. Because I think it does bring some perspective. So this ruling, we know what's going to happen. It's going to be an Obama-esque kind of like thing where they're going to try and duck the issue, say a bunch of gobbledygook nonsense, not really want to make a tough ruling, leave it out in the air, let district courts do whatever. Birth tourism is going to explode, and then we're going to have a real problem. And, damn Congress, they could have done something about it. And, after this ruling, Kevin, I want to ask you, I think we should create a combination of layering and birth tourism business here in Boise. We got a great international airport. You're a great media personality. We could just start flying people in. You could cut the promo ads in Kazakhstan, whatever. Like, we could just start flying them in here. They're dropping the babies. You and I will pay for it. I mean, the other problem, too, is if we're honest, socialism's won. The right and whatever the conservative movement is nothing but reactionary. They never argue first principles, and they let stuff rot. Universal human rights. Well, what is that? It's a great Marxist idea, and everybody should have the same rights and be at the same level, and we're just going to, give that to them, and you're going to pay for it. Climate change, you're going to pay for it. Senator Rich is the leader of the Foreign Affairs Committee, and we're still giving $40 million, a week or a month to the Taliban? And this is where I do follow a lot of activist Republicans. If it was the left, and this is abortion, any step back, there would have been activist people, there would have people taking action, showing up, making their representatives' life a living hell. If you're serious about the money going to the Taliban, like, where is the Republican soldier who is maimed and wrecked for the rest of their life, showing up at a private event or a public event the next time Rich or Crapo show up and demanding them, why did this happen to me, and how are you funding these people? How is it? Like, the problem is the activists, they're wimps. They're wimps. You do not hold these people accountable. There's no shame. They get away with it. They allow to show their faces in public, and that's why the Republicans, are cowards. Like, they can treat us like doormats, and what's the consequence? There is none. So, the trans thing too, like, geez, who knows how that's going to go? I mean, I played club baseball for University of Colorado, and because of Title IX, we lost our funding. If this goes the way that it's okay, I'm going to be really mad, because all we had to do was put on a bunch of dresses and claim to be women or trans, and we would have kept our funding, and we would have had a baseball team at the University of Colorado Boulder. So how ironic is that? Once again, Kevin, when this ruling goes down, hey, would you cut me some promos if I want to do a birth tourism thing here in Boise? Like, what do you think?
Well, let's examine that, because there's a big market internationally for a lot of stuff that goes on here that a lot of people don't know about. And some of it involves nonprofits. Some of it involves taxpayer dollars. And I have a friend, and he is starting to get into investigative work. And Chandler, as you know, you can only go so far until Big Brother, Big Sister, you can even smash the Death Star and they still reform. The Roberts Court, I really equate it to David Souter on steroids. You're right. He's about the institution. Now, the president has had major victories. It was the Roberts Court that gave us Obamacare, the Roberts Court that gave us DACA, the Roberts Court that gave us gay marriage, because he didn't want to disrupt things. I mean, the DACA decision is the most fascinating thing, where they all agreed it's unconstitutional, but the cost of defending the Constitution would be too high, too much of an upheaval. But there's a lot of things that are going on. And if you get too close, they will destroy you. And it's easier to destroy individuals now more than ever. People talk about online this, online that. All that means is more control. That's what I found. You've ever seen the movie Kill the Messenger?
No, actually, I'm sorry, I have not.
Jeremy Renner plays Gary Webb, the guy who broke the Iran-Contra story about the crack cocaine epidemic in South Central Los Angeles, funding the drug cartels, funding the Contras and all this. And you know what happened to Gary Webb?
Freeway Rick Ross.
Hold on. You get that. And, Gary Webb, who Jeremy Renner plays brilliantly in this movie, at the end of his newspaper, they were with him until the government said, hey, they made a few calls, and that was the end of his newspaper, the San Jose Mercury News, standing behind Gary Webb. And then all of a sudden he was discredited. He went from belle of the ball to ostracized, lost his family, and ended up shooting himself twice in the head by suicide. Now, I don't know how you shoot yourself twice in the head when you kill yourself, but that was the end of Gary Webb, according to the movie. And really what it shows you is, and look, I have I consider him a colleague, but, I pay him. He's an attorney. And he said to me, Kevin Miller, the system is so corrupt, you can sue people, you can spend your fortune that you have or don't have, and you can be right, and it's a Pyrrhic victory, because just because you sue someone, put liens on them, doesn't mean that they'll pay you. Or they pay you $20 a month for a thousands of dollars settlement. And there's, that's the game is rigged. So you have to figure out how to operate within the rigging of the system. I like that we're going after in-state tuition scholarships for people that are in the country illegally. That's a big win. I like the fact that we're learning about everything else. Like you, I think that, where is Congress? With all due respect, we've got Mike Johnson. Well, you allowed the government to be shut down, Mike. Mitch McConnell. I give it to McConnell. He wasn't one of us. But in the end, he got things done, and Thune is just, his little boy. He's not he's the guy replacing the guy. So Thune is, slow walking this act, because apparently there's some things that make people uncomfortable.
I think your analysis is pretty spot on, and it leads to dark places. The Haymarket Square riots in Chicago, there were Germans that were pretty left-leaning and pretty activist, and Germany's like, these guys are bad news, we're kicking them out, and we took them in. And so when you take in left-leaning labor organizers, what do you think you're going to get? I mean, that's what happens. So, and the thing that's really sad or scary, frustrating for me is, look, I work with people who, they don't talk about Israel, they don't talk about Ukraine, they don't talk about foreign policy, none of that. They're talking about I can't afford kids. I can't afford a house. I can't afford to live. Like, is socialism such a bad idea? These are people that voted for Trump. So, we got to come up with real solutions rather than laughing, because, like, the clock's running out.
Well, look,
the GOP
we're not laughing. And here's the other thing. I don't know about you, but I get tired of everybody talking about affordable housing is like $500,000. That's not affordable housing. And
no,
if we're going to be like a true free market, okay, no more tax breaks for anything. No more tax breaks for new development. No more tax breaks for retail. No more tax breaks for anything until we figure out how we can allow people to live in Idaho. I mean, you should be happy with what you have. Well, I have whatever. Yeah, it's better than somebody that doesn't have anything. There's a lot of resentment of good, hardworking people. I had a kid the other day go, these people have ruined my ability as a native Idahoan to own a home. He's only like 25. I go, damn, bro. There's a lot. And you tell me any politician in the state that's speaking to those people. There aren't any.
There you go, GOP. There it is. Yeah, talk to those issues, talk to those things. You're absolutely right. And the thing, too, is this trend, like, this isn't new. It's like within the last 10 years. 10 years ago, you could find houses for under $200,000. So you could find places to rent for a couple $100. And you could work that warehouse job at $10 an hour, $15 an hour, and work 12, 16-hour days, and have enough and live enough. And this way it was. It's not like it's not like Tea Party Bob talking about getting out of high school with a diploma and working and having a family. There's one thing the GOP could succeed at doing is let's start talking about a family wage. Let's not talk about a living wage. Let's get real and talk about what it takes to raise a family and commit to it. Because if you're going to be a family first party and you care about families, abortion too, same thing. Money. Most people get abortions because they can't afford it. That's a travesty. That's a failure. I mean, we could do better. Like, we had it 10 years ago. It's not like distant memory. It's in our event horizon fairly close here. So yeah, I agree with you. There's the message, man. You got it. Thanks, Kev.
Thank you, Chandler. Kevin Miller, 580 KIDO. Who you're going to run into in the state of Idaho and the super secret conservative conclave going on in our state right now. Find out what famous conservatives are in Idaho and why they're in Idaho. What are they doing in Idaho? Those stories and more on our website, KIDOTalkRadio.com. Do want to thank our friends at Idaho Patriot Thunder, High Desert Harley Davidson. We didn't get the Idaho Patriot Thunder, sadly, because of the weather. And even though Sunday turned out to be a lot better than Friday or Saturday, the challenge with holding that event is the ground was still wet. I mean, you don't want to take any chances when you have the vroom, the vroom, the vroom, the vroom of the motorcycles. You don't want to take any chances. So that'll be July 26th. We look forward to being out there. Once again, myself and Ugo Promotions will be there it'll be a great tune-up for the Spirit of Boise Balloon Classic, again, put on by Town Square Media, brought to you by Micron and many other people. We are talking about affordability, the Supreme Court, and what's next at the Supreme Court. Will they decide? Well, they have to decide because this is it, the big enchilada. We're going to find out about birthright citizenship and whether or not the Idaho law saying that biological men cannot play women's sports will stand. A true test for the Roberts Court. And because everybody's on vacation, we have more time to take calls. But it is really a true test of the Roberts Court on how this is going to play. Remember, we go back to the Roberts Court. It has given us gay marriage. It has given us DACA because DACA was challenged. And instead of blowing up DACA, instead of blowing up Obamacare, well, what do we have? Pardon me, still working off the effects of being in the rain. I don't know what it is. I used to be able to live in the rain, but now not so much from working Boise Music Festival. Like I said, an amazing, amazing event. So please pardon my coughing as we move along. Also, we were talking and examining the comments on Fox and Friends. Brett Baer, who was talking about lawsuits going on in states because we have, what do we have? We have states actually giving in-state tuition to people that are in the country illegally. Now, imagine that. In-state tuition is just wild. And we've been hearing a lot about the Supreme Court decisions. Let's go back to yesterday.
The Democrats have been pushing that this is somehow a politicized court that is just doing Trump's bidding, is just been completely destroyed. They ruled against him in Mississippi, as you said. They ruled for him in the slaughter case, with the radical notion that people in the executive branch exercising his executive authority should actually follow his policies and represent him. Crazy idea. But in all these areas, they're upholding the Constitution, and sometimes they rule that the Constitution rules in favor of the president, and sometimes they find that it doesn't. What he is going to do. So this what we're seeing, putting aside the specifics of the cases, is that the argument for reform or for packing the court that the Democrats are going to make is complete bunk. There is
bunkity bunk, 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 not funk, bunk.
No case for it. This is a conservative court but it is a fair court, and it rules against the president as well as for him.
Boom. Let's go back to the Brett Baer case. I mean, imagine this going on, and could this happen in Idaho? I hope that it doesn't. I hope that this isn't going on in Idaho. It could be happening in Idaho because we have a lot of liberal, progressive folks, which will be fascinating to see if and when Boise State ever gets a new president. You know, people are talking about the new blue and all sorts of things and da-da-da-da-da. I don't know about you, but there appears to have been a lot of turnover at Boise State lately. A lot of turnover in the athletic department. Here's Timmy. Timmy just got here from wherever. There's nothing wrong with that, but I guess that not only do you have athletes that are leaving, transient, if you will, but now you have people in the administration that are leaving and going to other opportunities, maybe a bigger opportunity, a chance to make more money, as we call it in the broadcast center. I don't know. But it just kind of hit me that there are a lot of unfamiliar faces at Boise State, when in the old days it used to be, Gene Blameyer, Mr. Larondo, but those people are gone, which makes you wonder about the new administration. You've got a guy, where is he from? Arizona? Mr. Hahn, Professor Hahn, Dr. Hahn, that is really an engineer into research, a very different hire than, what's her name, Sally, that left and had the blue and orange toenails. And, we covered that on the news. And, because we lived in the Me Too, I go, did they hire a university president or a cheerleader with her blue and orange outfits? And I think that we can all admit that the Dr. Trump era was a complete disaster for the university, where we had lawsuits, we had unrest, and we had just someone that, as a native Westerner, did not get the vibe and seemed more like Berkeley or one of those liberal places where she came from than Idaho. So I hope this new guy actually gets it. And I wrote about this. I think that this is the beginning of the post football future for Boise State as they try to become a Tier 1 research institute. Easier said than done. And obviously, when you talk about everything in the state, I think they're going to call it Ida Micron from now on, because the Micron poll, considering they're having problems in New York, is only going to get stronger. All right, hour 2 done. Thank you very much. WindowWorldBoise.com. WindowWorldBoise.com brings you Fox News Now. 580 KIDO, good morning. Breaking news, the Supreme Court. I was surprised that you joined us. I'm happy that you did, but
we're going to keep it a little quick today. Yeah, we'll have to keep this one brief. But
you just roll, sir. We're good.
Yeah, I mean, last day of the Supreme Court, obviously that Idaho case, one of the big ones we were waiting for in the Supreme Court, upholding both the Idaho and West Virginia laws that ban transgender girls from school athletic teams. The opinion written by Justice Kavanaugh essentially says that there is a compelling state interest here to prevent injuries and other harm to athletes, and that is the basis for these laws, and these laws are constitutional on that front. Not an entirely unexpected opinion for those of us who heard arguments, but certainly one that will continue to kind of drive this conversation, because Idaho, West Virginia, not the only states kind of wrestling with these issues. This is an opinion, again, that deals specifically with these state laws, and in many ways will leave these questions of transgender participation in athletics up to each state for the time being.
Jared, we will get you out on that. Thank you, sir.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, our great friend Jared Halpern. So here we have it. 6-3, true believers. The Supreme Court upholding bans on transgendered athletes participating in women and girls sports in Idaho and West Virginia, saying that the laws do not violate the 14th Amendment. Big news today. Big news for the state of Idaho. We will get your reaction. Phone numbers here, 580-5436, 580-KIDO. And, of course, right after that big enchilada, what's next? Of course, birthright citizenship. It is a good day to be in talk radio. Of course, keep it here. We've got the Clay, we've got the Buck, we've got Sean, we've got a lot of people as we will have complete analysis of this amazing day for the state of Idaho. Remember, it wasn't any other state. We can be highly critical of our state, but it was our state that led the way. It was Idaho that made this happen. It was Idaho that had the first law of its kind. Now, apparently, I believe this kicks us back to the sport or to the states, which I guess the states will be allowed to enforce this, but you're not going to have, you're not going to have biological males playing women's sports in Idaho. And as we've said before, this is amazing. We'll have complete live analysis as we take a look at this, as I'm trying to get up the feeds right now, which is just simply amazing. Who says there's not? Who says this is the news watch never stops, if you will. And certainly we're doing our very best to pull this stuff up. We'll see if I can get the stream going on this. But amazing when you're thinking about a 6-3 verdict. And now if you're a progressive, if you're liberal, you're going to be screaming about this. But as Jared Halpern, live from the White House with reaction, just told us, we kind of expected this. And think about if those 3 conservative justices that President Trump didn't get a chance to put on, what would have happened? Tell you what would have happened. You would have had 6-3 the other way, with biological males being allowed to compete against women. And how about that? For the first time ever that I can think of, Idaho is leading the way. Idaho is making it happen. Let's see. Do we have a feed here? Let's see what we have. We have people outside the Supreme Court. Let's see what this thing is saying as well, if we can get some analysis as we try to pull it. Nope, we've just got a guy with a security guard. He looks like he's doing security. So that having been said, the decision 6-3. And as I said before, it is fascinating what a difference this administration has done. This administration has installed these justices that have made this happen, and have basically said, look, we're going to make it fair. On the other hand, you have people talking about the 14th Amendment and saying that now all of a sudden biological males do not have rights under the 14th Amendment. No, that's not what it means. It means that you're going to have separate categories for men and women. So now states may ban trans athletes in girls' sports. A big one. Let's go to Brian in Nampa, who's going to tell us how you can shoot yourself in the head twice. Good morning, Brian.
Well, let me first say, Kevin, I'm not surprised that men have the right to protect their daughters and wives from other men. Since when is that a new idea? I've gotten in trouble a lot of times, Kevin, for saying I'd gladly go to jail for my wife or my daughters. When did that change, Kevin? Like, I thought that's what men were supposed to do. Isn't that the whole point of war, to defend your family from the enemy? And it doesn't matter if that enemy's internal or external. The 14th Amendment applies to women. They have the right to be safe and secure. That's the whole point behind our Constitution, if you ask me. Like, how do you have children? How do you have families if you can't keep your wives and children safe? You know what I'm saying?
Well, I know what you're saying, but this is amazing that we have an Idaho law being upheld by the Supreme Court.
Yeah, it's about time. Idaho is conservative. Idaho is what America used to be. I'm glad you guys are finally figuring that out. Like, if you want to see the old America, come talk to people that grew up in Idaho. We were raised the way the old America was. So this doesn't surprise me at all. I'm also happy that the Supreme Court decided that the president of the executive can fire whoever he wants. What a concept. You know, the president of the United States should be able to fire anybody under the executive branch that he wants to. And it took 90 years for our country to pull our head out and finally figure that one out. Isn't that the whole point? Like, I feel like George Washington's turning over in his grave going, it took you 90 years to figure this out, and it took Idaho to bring this one up? Like, what's wrong? What happened to our country that it took this long to get all ironed out? And Kevin, just to answer your question, I've seen this in multiple different areas because I grew up on a ranch. I've killed a lot of animals. I've seen a rattlesnake get his head chopped off, and that head still bites somebody. I've seen chickens get their head chops off, and they run around a stump and then up your leg. The reality is the nervous system and the body still functions for at least 39 more seconds. And I've seen people at a gun range shoot great big revolvers that hadn't been taught on how to fire them. I've seen them fire a revolver, and then because they tried to control it with their wrists, not their elbows and their shoulders, so it went up over their head, the gun turned in their hand, and then their finger pulled the trigger again and took their head off. So it doesn't surprise me at all that somebody that commits suicide could pull the trigger and their nervous system does it again. It flinches. It's kind of like when you get hit by electricity. Just think you kind of.
I think more on the other lines. He was killed.
Yeah, that could be true, but it wouldn't surprise me if somebody, because your nervous system does really weird things for that 39 seconds of your body shutting down. I don't know either way, but like I said, I've seen a lot of animals die, and it's weird how they go out. So, but yeah, I love a lot of what has happened recently with the Supreme Court, and I love that Idaho's leading in this. It should not be any doubt to any Idahoan that was born and raised here that you have a right to defend, especially your daughters and your wife, from other men. Duh.
All right, Brian, thank you for that. We love it when you ended on duh. We haven't had duh in a while. Let's go to Pro-Life, who joins us now, reacting to the Supreme Court ruling on transgendered athletes and certainly coming up birthright citizenship. Hot and heavy this morning with Kevin Miller at 580 KIDO.
Yeah, you know, Kavanaugh is out of it, and the people that were with that writing are out of it, you know, that opinion, because he said that it could harm girls to have boys in there because their bodies could be harmed. No, the whole question is it's just male against female, and it wouldn't matter if a real strong girl harmed some other strong girl. That's got nothing to do with it. It's just that there's only two sexes, male and female, and the Supreme Court did not say that. They're out of it. They're stupid guys. They're defying natural law, common sense, and in their opinion. But, of course, you know, we benefit from it because that's our law. But I'm really disgusted with them. And but I'm disgusted with all the politicians. You know, here in Idaho, we should have just said to the Supreme Court, we don't care how you rule. We're going to enforce this law that boys can't compete with girls. And that's just going to be it. We don't care whatever the ruling is. But we honor the Supreme Court because we've been trained to be stupid and take any kind of opinion from stupid judges. And judges do rule America, and they're liberal, and we're going down the toilet because of it. And so I don't know what to do about it except, you know, people, they move here because they think that Idaho is a place of refuge. Well, it isn't a place of refuge. They're just changing their address to a different place that's still ruled by the federal government over common sense, over Christianity. We don't have any Christianity in our country. The churches are all shut down. They're going gay. The churches are...
Did you just say that churches are going gay?
Yeah. I'll mention your church. Your church, the Vatican, is approving the priesthood to give blessings to homosexual unions. Right there in the Vatican.
I haven't heard that one.
Oh yeah, just go to LifeSite News. It's all over the place. But you know the national news, the international news, they're not going to tell you that's what's happening. But my church, I don't have a church, but my former church, they're all falling apart because they're liberalizing everything. You know, I went to BYU. Now they have professional sports where they paid a guy $4.1 million to play 1 year of basketball. That's stupidity on the whole church and the whole system. We shouldn't be doing that. But, you know, you can't, when people get corrupt and they look at others and say, hey, we're not so corrupt because those guys are worse than we are. That's how it is. Somebody's worse than you are at being corrupt, so you're okay. That's our national motto. So anyway, I'm pretty disgusted with everybody, and maybe even myself, because I should have been tougher on all of this for all of my life. But you know, I tried to be, but nobody wants to listen. So anyway, we're socialists, we're communists.
Well, I'm glad we have you on if nobody wants to listen to you. What does that say about us?
Yeah, well, maybe they're turning their radios off. They say, I don't want to listen to that pro-life guy because he's saying...
Well, that's enough. Hold on. That's enough out of you. Thanks for the call. Let's go to Edwin in Meridian with Kevin Miller at 580 KIDO. What up, Edwin?
Hello, Mr. Kevin Miller. I will tell you, Kevin, you might hang up on me, but I agree with a lot of what pro-life was saying. But anyway, I love pro-life. When he comes on, I leave the radio on. I love you, pro-life. Keep it going, brother. I feel the same way. You know, I have a question for you, Mr. Miller. You know, why is it that I probably know what the answer is, but why is it that the 3 liberal Supreme Court justices never ever vote with the conservatives on things that are actually common sense? They're common sense issues. And it seems like they never, Kagan and that other, whatever her name is, the Broadway.
Sotomayor, yeah. And Ketanji Brown Jackson, yeah.
Yeah, Ketanji Brown. It's like, why don't, it's like the Democrat Party. They never vote with the Republicans. The Supreme Court justices, the 3 of them, I honestly think that they're not about the Constitution of the United States. They're not about the Constitution. I think, in my opinion, that they are 3 liberal judges. I don't even call them judges. I call them activists, because that's exactly what they are. It's just activists sitting on a bench in the Supreme Court. That's my belief. And as far as Kavanaugh and Coney, or whatever her name is, the other Supreme, I keep forgetting. Sometimes I don't get those 2, and sometimes they do good, and then sometimes I kind of question their ruling. But you know what? I don't. I'm kind of like the last guy called. I can't remember his name either. I'm getting old here. But it's just like I don't understand these politicians anymore, Kevin. I don't understand why we haven't passed the Save America Act. Why has that not passed? You know, and I don't understand these people anymore, these politicians. But I think the only power that we have as American citizens, especially myself, the only power that I have is to just vote for the right person. And that's all I can do, because I have no power to do anything else but to just vote. And I feel like that's the only, and I don't feel like if that's even power anymore to the American people if we vote, you know. So anyway, I question a lot of this now, and I've just kind of removed myself from politics, because it's just like, does it even matter anymore? All I can do is vote for the right person that I feel like would do the job as a conservative, and that's all I can do at this point. And it's kind of like very dissatisfying. It's like, wow, all I have is the power to vote. That's it. But then I have other people, like I have friends who say, you know, why doesn't Idaho become a little bit more liberal? Why, you know, I had a couple of friends of mine that said, Why can't we have a casino here to gamble in Idaho? We have the lottery. I said, I don't know. Maybe you should ask the governor. I don't know. Maybe you should ask Raul Labrador. I don't know.
Well, I'll tell you, it's interesting when you talk about that because you have the rumored Mountain Home Casino that would be built on tribal land. So we still don't know, all of a sudden they'll issue a press release and everybody gets excited and then it goes away. So we'll have to see. That's your answer to the casinos.
I guess that's up in Elmore County or something. I can't remember. I remember reading about it. But anyway, we just all we can do, Kevin, is just, my dad used to always say, he said, keep your powder dry and your nose clean and you'll be fine in life. Vote for the right people, do what is right, be a good citizen, and God will take care of the rest. And that's all I do now. So anyway. But anyway, it was nice to talk to you again,
Show's always better with you, sir.
All right, Kevin. Well, take care of your health. I heard you're doing really good, man.
I'm trying, Edwin. I'm trying. God bless you. You take care of yourself on the roads.
God bless you, sir. Have a good day.
Great friend Edwin. We got to know Edwin during the pandemic. Always a blessing to have him on. We go to Lee Joe, who joins us now. Will he praise the Idaho lawmakers for being the first in the nation with this law that allows athletes to be protected? Good morning, sir.
Well, yeah, of course. The lawmakers have done a great job setting a precedent. And can we count on them to set a precedent again? Sometimes. But but pro-life is right. We've got liberal judges that, like you said, they didn't say there's two genders. They said this is a safety issue. So that what they basically said is for the greater good. It's the same socialist runaround that we got as a majority opinion there. I mean, good job getting it done. As to two shots on a suicide, possible, maybe. Likely, no. We, the people, are in jeopardy when we challenge the authorities. And that's the way it is now. It's Robert Jones out there in Canyon County. His daughter gets stopped or arrested 8 times, and he goes to the officer's house, writes in chalk, protests a government official, that being an officer. He's convicted on one count, and the other one he's not convicted on. But he exercised his rights peacefully, and he's going to end up going to jail for it. This is where we're at. They make things up. The establishment or the corporate, or the money or what have you will have its way by either manipulating the government or the courts. And there it is. You are at risk. You, Kevin Miller, are at risk. If you have the wrong opinion, you lose your job. You have lost your job for, First Amendment exercise. And that's the way it is. We don't live in the Pollyanna world that we wish we lived in, where the Constitution actually applies to something. We live where money rules, where we can justify whatever, where the courts will justify whatever. Pro-life is very right. He's made a lot of great points today. And then back to Chandler, 100%, dead on. We're not sitting here talking about how much things cost, and we have this huge advertising problem just now in Idaho. Number one, we were the first to stop the opposite sex in sports. Number two, we've been rated as the most free in gun laws. That's just going to run more people in here. That's just going to take more housing prices up. And Emmett has 300 cops living in it. I heard this from a reporter. There's 300 cops living in Emmett, either retired California cops or some of our on-duty cops from the jurisdictions further south. And this is where we're at. Anything that's conservative is going to run like mad here, and we're not going to get ahead of the housing prices.
Well, I don't think that Emmett is unique. Look, and I don't make it to be about the place I live, but you can't, drop a nickel without running into a retired law enforcement officer where I live. I go to one of these little gyms here. They're very nice little gyms. And look, man, I'm just minding my own business, but you have, and again, I think a lot of Idaho officers, you're going to disagree with me, don't have the tough guy attitude, but I'll be in the gym and, they lounge around because they did it right. They, have their pensions and, I've got, San Bernardino SWAT t-shirts and I'm like, you don't live there, dude. And then it's like, oh, well, they're all PTSD and they're all this. And I'm like, dude, you have a great life. You don't have to be a tough guy and you don't have to, but that's the benefit of these people moving to a great place. I wish they would assimilate more, but what do I know?
Well, there you go. It's like you say, it's kind of like they're their own entitled class. They're entitled to this attitude, and I think you're probably right. It's a lot more with the California transplant cops that are still working here, or they have this attitude.
And I mean, to give them the benefit, I'm sure they had to face a lot of atrocities that people in Idaho don't. So that has influenced them. But it's funny, like the spouses, and they go, yeah, and we're doing the threat assessment. I go, dude, you live in a town with that like has 2 stoplights, and a third one is a controversy. It's just the thing that gets me is when you move to Idaho, if you really want to be in Idaho, first of all, as I've said for years, you change your license plates. Second of all, hey, I don't really need to have, Grateful Dead, San Bernardino on there. I mean, you can't buy a shirt that says Ida. It's just very weird, the unique subculture that these folks try to maintain. And all it does is really alienate them for people that have been here. When I meet someone who has grown up in Idaho as a native, I apologize. I go, I'm sorry. I'm an interloper. I'm so sorry what we have all done to you people. And I mean that.
And I agree. Even all these small counties are having problems with these, with cops that they hire. They come in and, they got the California attitude. And it makes them.
Well, hold on. Do you hold on? Do you want to tell the truth? Do you want to really tell people what's going on? Let's just go to Caldwell.
Okay, you do Caldwell.
That is an example. No, nobody cares about Boise County. I'm talking about Caldwell, where the police chief is suing the mayor, and the former mayor backed the police chief. You had multiple lawsuits. Just because somebody sues someone doesn't mean that it's right. But you talk about, and remember, the last chief got run out by the FBI. So you want to talk about a big one. I mean, Boise County, it's 10th. I have never, hold on, here you go. I have never, ever, ever had any type of insane corporate pressure or attacks on me at a corporate level than when we talked about Boise County. They can have Boise County for all I care. My goodness gracious. You try to as I've said before, you try to even examine things there, and boom, all of a sudden you're accused of everything else, and Bo and I are in the office. That's Boise County. And I am telling the truth. Thank you for the call, Lee Joe. Kevin Miller, 580 KIDO. Limiting on political parties' coordinated expenditures violates the First Amendment. This is great news for the Republicans. A big day. And we all know we all have to be very, very careful. We all have to be very, very careful because that Roberts, that Chief Justice, that guy loves to be Lucy, 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 and Charlie Brown. And you know what's going on. You know what I'm talking about. I love this. And by the way, liberal CBS bashing the Supreme Court 6-3, saying states can ban biological men from competing against biological women.
This is still subject to scientific and medical debate. All of these issues related to transgenderism. But right now, the court is saying states have a valid and rational interest to put some limits, some protections for safety and competitive fairness in the legal code. But the court is acknowledging something that we should remind ourselves. This is an evolving debate. Right now, it is in a very definite, hesitant towards transgender rights space. I would just remind our audience, there was a time in our country in the late 1990s, nearly 2000s, when many states, most states in our countries, constitutionally banned same-sex marriage. We are in a different place on that issue now. That debate and all the
Yeah, that was 5-4, Justice Roberts. That was a Justice Roberts special. Gotta say this, President Trump and his conservative justices winning big. What is next? We'll find out before Buck and Clay and Buck today. Let's see. ABC News legal analyst James Semple frets the Supreme Court ruling against transgenderism on women's sports will lead to exclusion as an unavoidable consequence. Well, yes, that's the idea. Now, maybe they come up with their own league. I don't know. But I love how they go on and on and on about this stuff. Quickly, as this news is happening, let's go to Shannon Bream.
Yes, and so this decision written by Justice Kavanaugh is a traditional 6-3, some of the ideological splits you would expect to see here. And he says those limits amount to essentially limiting speech, and it's unconstitutional so that the parties can freely spend with candidates. They say this, it allows all political parties, including the DNC and RC, this is not benefiting a particular party, and the respected Senate and House campaign committees, as well as other parties and party committees, to participate more freely and compete more fully in the political process and to coordinate more closely with their candidates. So allowing the parties to spend money in connection with their candidates, says whether the Democratic Party, the Republican Party, or other parties, all political parties and candidates going forward can compete equally under the same rules regarding coordinated expenditures and can structure their fundraising, spending, and political speech on a level playing field as they see fit within the law. So essentially saying there can be no wall now between those, and that trying to limit the parties from their speech and essentially spending money with their coordinated candidates violates the Constitution. And again, they say doesn't benefit this White House or a different White House. Democrats, Republicans alike are able to take advantage essentially of this decision today. Justice Kagan leads the dissenters, so I will read hers and get back to you when we know how.
All right, thank you, Shannon Bream. 580 KIDO traffic and the birthright citizenship. That's a tough one. The birthright citizenship, apparently, we will continue on with that one. We'll get your reaction. 580-5436. 580 KIDO. More analysis, more reaction as we break this down.
On birthright citizenship, again, we did get more information coming in at this point, the vote of 6-3, and I know that might be making you a little bit dizzy, so what I'm going to do is pop this up on your screen, a wide look, I should say, right there outside of the Supreme Court building where you have some protesters, folks who have been gathering, just essentially trying to wait to see exactly how this was going to play out. President Trump signing that executive order on his first day in office of his second term, so January of 2025, and the order denying that automatic citizenship to children born to parents who enter the country illegally. We know that Trump attended those oral arguments, and now what we're being told is that the Supreme Court has ruled against that executive order. So, Stephanie, we have been watching all of this very closely in real time with the help, of course, of our friends over at SCOTUS blog. We're gathering all of those details. Again, the live feeds that we have coming in, they are speaking to people, but right now it's kind of shaky out there, so you're not really able to see or hear what's going on around them. If that changes, though, we're going to make sure to bring you those feeds here on Live Now from Fox.
And Josh, it really gives you a sense of the atmosphere. I have to imagine that, you know, there's so much emotion on either side of the aisle, and of course the photographers want to capture it all. It gives you that sense of the chaos, the immediacy, the historical nature of this. Right now, I do want to bring in civil rights attorney Adante Pointer, who joined me earlier on Live Now from Fox.
Adante.
Adante, we were talking prior to this decision on Sunday. Now we have that Supreme Court decision handed down, upholding birthright citizenship. What's your initial reaction?
Well, this is in line with the way the court has interpreted the Constitution as it relates to being very strict. And so this is consistent with the way you've seen the court analyze other of President Trump's initiatives as it relates to the strict interpretation of the constitutional text. So it's not so much of a surprise. However, it is in one sense, in that the Supreme Court has done a lot to support Trump's initiatives since coming into office his second term.
And let's talk about that, because the Supreme Court is a separate branch and they are not tethered to, political nature. However, there has been discussion, and to your point, there has been discussion on whether the Supreme Court justices could be influenced, and now we have this ruling handed down. Let's take a look at the docket in its entirety. We've had cases yesterday, today, as well as last week handed down. When you take a look at it in its entirety, what's that perspective for you when it comes to where the mindset of the Supreme Court justices are?
Well, the conservative justices, which are the majority of the court, have actually upheld or promoted many of Trump's policy changes and or actions, be it dealing with temporary protected status, transgender athletes, which we got, and various other different things. The two major planks that they have rejected were Trump's tariffs and also birthright citizenship. But other than that, it's been pretty much a clean sweep through the court for the Trump administration. So I think many people feel as if this court does lean and is ideologically.
I don't think you can really say that. By the way, can we lower him a little bit more? Thank you, Sweet William. So once again, the Roberts Court hoses us, and it's not 5-4, it's 6-3. We'll get that breakdown for you as we do this real-time developments. Phone numbers here, 580-5436, 580-KIDO. Here's one, the 5th of November. It was obvious we were going to get blanked. Another one, SCOTUS sucks blank. I think what we have here with these online comments, basically it's, how should we say this? It's talk radio with profanity, if you will. Let's see. We actually have 3 SCOTUSes who just don't support the Constitution. Think about it. And Kavanaugh, that waffling that direction. Seriously, they don't support or adhere to the words of the Constitution long established. America is dead with the SCOTUS decision on birthright citizenship. Congress can pass legislation, but we all know Congress is useless. Wow. And we'd love to get your thoughts at 580-5436, 580-KIDO. Before that, though, we go to Ron Grant, and we, let's see. All right, we're going to go to Ron Grant in a minute. And by the way, much more going on with this. This is what we call live radio. It's not AI. It's not, how should we put this? It's not perfect. It's imperfections as it happens, because we're dealing with this as we roll along. So we'll get with Ron. We'll get with you. And again, more of your calls, I'm sure. Well, I know everybody's going to be talking about this. But when people say that, the Supreme Court's in Donald Trump's pocket, no, it isn't. It shows you that our system works. So more comments. Not really. SCOTUS just ruled it's unconstitutional to have the country with borders. Seems like it's 5-4. Trump replacing one of the Robert Sotomayor by the end of his term, and new SCOTUS will repeal this. I don't know if that's even possible. New limit test for any GOP justice has to be birthright citizenship. Now remember, this was the president's executive order. As we've talked about again and again and again, dear friend, again and again and again, dear friend, we have talked about this repeatedly. And we've said that Congress has to pass these laws. Congress has to pass these laws. And if you rule by executive order, then what do we have? we have the ability to get it all reversed. Like I said, this is what happens when we roll. So that having moved along as well, let me see. This is what we call Kevin Miller trying to fill. Let's go back to the Fox News feed if we can and get some more analysis here.
Specific ruling.
Well, I think in many communities, there's a sense of relief. You know, this whole mass deportation strategy has put millions and millions of people, not just parents, but also kids, at jeopardy in terms of their legal status within this country. Did that mean they would be up for immediate deportation? Do they have to sell their businesses, leave their jobs? And what are the employers going to do, especially with our economy in a flux? So this gives some stability, if you will, to a large portion of our workforce and people who thought that they were citizens and their kids would be citizens going forward. So I think there's a sense of relief in that regard. However, we know that this is part of a much larger policy change and shift. And so we have to see where it goes from here.
And that's a big question, is we really don't know where this is all going to go. Looking ahead, could this be brought back up?
Well, you know, the Supreme Court made this ruling, and you have to understand, this was 100-plus-year-old legal precedent. You know, this arose out of the former enslaved persons being allowed and granted full citizenship rights in this country. So this is a very old legal precedent that this president and his administration wanted to upend and essentially reverse. So, you know, to say, can it happen again? It can happen again. Another challenge can be brought up at some later point in time, but it'll have to, just like this, wind its way through the courts and find itself on the desk of the Supreme Court. And that may happen. Go ahead.
Oh, absolutely. And I apologize for cutting you off. We are continuing to gather reaction. And this is from Martin Luther King III, saying today's decision affirms the constitutional principle that has defined our country for generations, that those born on American soil are citizens of the United States. By rejecting this attempt to narrow the citizenship clause of the 14th Amendment, the court has upheld a promise of equal belonging that is fundamental to our democracy.
There we have it. Much more coming up. We've been waiting for Ron Grant. We'll go to Ron now, standing by at the very ready. He's not talking about the Supreme Court, but he is talking about money.
Paid for by Ron Grant, your safer money specialist.
And here he is, Ron Grant on the scene, not outside the Supreme Court, but he is outside, well, maybe the money center. Maybe he's got a money tree. Good morning, Ron.
I wish I had a money tree, young man. How about you? You got a money tree?
I made a lot of bad decisions, Ron. I'll be working for a long, long time. But for those that have done all the right moves and want to do the right moves, Ron, we live in challenging times. This is where you come in. Can you help people keep their money safe in the event of a financial calamity?
I do it every day, buddy. This is my 30th year helping people. I didn't think 30 years would go so fast, but it did. You know, it's really not brain surgery. You know, market goes up, we get a chance to go up with it. If the market drops, we don't lose. And every year there's a gain. What do? We lock it, and we go one way, and that's up. You know, my clients and I sleep at night knowing that we can't lose our principal and we can't lose any gains that we've already earned. And most importantly, Kevin, I provide a lifetime income for my clients that they can't outlive. And when they've passed away, their beneficiaries will get the balance. If you're married, when one spouse passes, the other spouse gets that for the rest of their life. And then when they've passed, whatever left goes to the beneficiaries. 401ks, IRAs, 457 plans can't say that because their money, their pot isn't tied to the Wall Street casino. And my clients and I, we don't like that. Also, when we move the money over, there's no tax ramifications. We have 60 days to do a rollover. I understand there's a lot of people out there telling people that they're going to be taxed and this and that. That is untrue.
Well, Ron, how can people get a hold of you? Do you live in Poughkeepsie?
Poughkeepsie. Never would live in Poughkeepsie, my friend.
Oh, my man.
I'm right here in the Treasure Valley. Yes, sir. And you know what? I put together a great educational website that they can go on 24/7, articles to read, videos to take a look at. Safer Money Specialist.com, or they can call me. Let's have a phone conversation right here to make sure you have a guaranteed income you can't outlive. But most importantly, Kevin, legacy protection for you and your family, because that's what you work 35 or 40 years for. So give me a call, 208-660-1372.
Ron Grant on the scene as always. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, buddy. Have a wonderful day.
Paid for by Ron Grant, your safer money specialist.
And much more. It's very easy to determine why the Supreme Court did this. If all of a sudden they start affirming executive orders, you don't need Congress anymore. More analysis as we break it down. If you're just waking up, good news, good news, good news. Supreme Court ruled that biological men cannot compete against biological women. The states can determine that. Idaho, the first one in the country to pass this law, Representative Earhart, was all her. All her. Big time when we're thinking about it. Let's continue on.
Court will continue to either push forward or push back against Trump's agenda. And, as we all know, keep your popcorn ready because there's a lot to be seen. And we'll hear this. I'm waiting to hear his response. Pretty much classic for President Trump to focus on the win and probably minimize or ridicule the justices as it relates to them ruling against one of his signature initiatives.
And you're talking about just waiting for the president's reaction. We do have additional reaction here. This one from Senator Schmidt saying the Supreme Court's birthright citizenship decision is wrong, dangerous, and disastrous for American sovereignty and the American people. If we can't fix it with ordinary legislation, then we must do what the Constitution commands in moments of national crisis. We must amend the Constitution and restore American citizenship. We must again put we the people first. The Supreme Court's decision constitutionalizing unlimited birthright citizenship for the children of illegal aliens and temporarily present aliens is wrong and disastrous for our sovereignty and the future of our republic. The decision expose citizenship is more than paperwork issued by the government. It is more than a bureaucratic label that grants access to government programs. Citizenship is the bond between a nation and its people. And I want to focus specifically on what Senator Schmidt is calling for, which is amending the Constitution.
And we'll get to that in a minute. Kevin Miller, 580 KIDO. KIDO getting reaction now.
And this is what he has to say.
From Mike Speaker
Today's
Johnson.
Supreme Court decision is a victory for women and girls across America. It affirms a simple truth. Men do not belong in women's sports. Every girl deserves a level, equal playing field and the chance to compete based on her talent, hard work, and determination. For 54 years, Title IX has protected and expanded opportunities for female athletes. Those hard-fought gains must be defended now more than ever as the radical left seeks to redefine woman and undermine women's rights at every turn. House Republicans will always stand for common sense, protect women's sports, and fight for America's daughters. So this particular one, the transgender women in sports, focused on Title IX, the birthright citizenship focused on the 14th Amendment. As the justices are hearing these arguments, hearing these lines of speaking, as they're taking a look back to history and legal precedent, and we're hearing from these long-standing laws, what is the mindset of the justice as they're weighing, and this is significant, and they take this very seriously, but weighing some of these long-standing laws?
Well, we can see that the justices are not shy about stepping forward and upending longstanding legal precedent. We've seen that with Roe v. Wade being overturned.
And we'll continue to see that as we move along. More of your calls next, 580-5436, 580-KIDO as we roll along. Big day, Idaho wins, the president, birthright citizenship stands. What does it mean for America? Find out next with Kevin Miller, 580-KIDO. Good morning.
Can I provide a definition?
Mm-hmm.
No.
Yeah.
I can't.
You can't?
Not in this context.
So
I'm not a biologist.
There we have it. 2 women, 5 women on SCOTUS, Ketanji Brown Jackson in the minority on a 6-3 decision when she voted against SCOTUS women's sports ruling today. Her bias was assumed as she couldn't provide a definition for what a woman is during her confirmation hearing. That is Congressman John Breachin. By the way, I think a lot of people that listen to this show would know what a woman is. And here you have a Supreme Court justice that does not know what a woman is. Boy, people are fired up about this. If you're just tuning in, here we go. Bright lights, big city, fancy cars. The news watch never stops. We have Idaho winning 6-3. Blah, blah, blah. Oh, no. It was a 5-4 decision that upheld birthright citizenship. Oh, my. Let's find out who sided with this. Can you imagine how close we've come to saving America? This is insane. It was, oh my goodness gracious, Roberts who wrote the opinion. The Siths, Sotomayor, Kagan, and Jackson. And Barrett. It is not a good day for Amy Coney Barrett. By the way, Sotomayor looking a little long in the tooth, like all of us. Kagan, unless she's got a filter on that camera, looking pretty good for Kagan. Brown Jackson, I believe, the youngest, and Coney Barrett. My goodness gracious. See, I thought it was originally reported 6-3, but we're talking 5-4. Man, Amy Coney Barrett. Ooh, ouch. You got to say, it takes a lot of guts to do that, but it wasn't Kavanaugh. It was not Gorsuch. It was not Thomas. It was not Alito. By the way, this is, some of the stuff on X. I know it's visual, but you have this guy, let's see, Newswatch Warrior on X breaking down the makeup of the Supreme Court. Let's go to the glasses. Let's see. He looks at Sotomayor, progressive DEI hire, Clarence Thomas, badass, da-da-da-da-da. Whoops, sorry, let that one slip. Bad, blah, 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 in a good way. Roberts, uniparty. Alito, conservative. Kagan, progressive liberal. Coney Barrett, uniparty coward. Gorsuch, conservative. Kavanaugh, conservative until he isn't. And then we have Ketanji Brown Jackson, Leering Center graduate. Ouch. Man, this is a harsh one. Amy Coney Barrett, the flip. And Roberts, who... Roberts is Roberts. Roberts is Roberts. Let's see. We could have a Chinese spy or radical Islamist running for POTUS. Shocking. Investigate SCOTUS. This is BS. Whew. Man, dude. This is some rough stuff. The reaction coming in. Phone numbers here, 580-5436, 580-KIDO. The president's saying, courtesy of the Heritage Foundation, the war on women's sports is over. And by the way, you got to give it to Riley Gaines. You got to give it to our friend Victor Miller, who brought in Riley Gaines, among others. Governor Little, who signed it. People talk about the governor, but the governor, he signed it, signed the pro-life law, signed everything, which is pretty major when you think about Idaho leading the way. We'll continue to get analysis of this and some really funny stuff on X. But at 580-5436, 580-KIDO, the reaction is just amazing when you're thinking about the birthright citizenship, striking this down. And then we have people, let's see, now we have the race baiters, Eddie Glaude going on and on about, let's see, the white republic and Kavanaugh's at the heart of it and all these things. This is just ridiculous and absurd. And there's a reason why. I don't know if you've heard, but Comcast is now getting rid of it. Not only did they get rid of MSNBC, but they're getting rid of NBC.
Eddie, are you breathing a sigh of relief? And I also want your take on Justice Kavanaugh's role here, not just in today's decision, but in the sort of bigger picture and story of this court right now.
Right. So, yes, I am breathing a sigh of relief, but I want us to kind of widen the aperture a bit to understand the origins, the provenance of this challenge. It's part of this ongoing effort, I think, to address the demographic shifts in the country. I think it's part of this long-standing effort since the 14th Amendment was ratified to undermine it. We need to understand that this particular, the Birthright Citizenship Clause of the 14th Amendment is addressing the 1857 Dred Scott case. Charles alluded to this earlier. So we need to understand the ways in which these arguments are in some ways aligning with a particular vision of the country that we need to make explicit. That is to say that there are folks who are doubling down on the idea that this country must be a white republic. And they're doing it by any means necessary. They're trying to achieve that end by any means necessary. But, through a narrow decision, the Constitution stands, but we need to still be mindful of the motivation that is driving all of this in the first place, it seems to me. And Kavanaugh is at the heart of it, just to answer that part of it.
Oh, yeah.
By the way, we're getting conflicting reports here. Some say it's 6-3. Others say it's 5-4. Let's see. Here we go. The ruling was 5-4 on the 14th Amendment and 6-3 on congressional citizenship statutes. Roberts was joined by Sotomayor, Kagan, Barrett, and Jackson. Kavanaugh concurred in part as the statutory question. This is amazing. Let's get more.
Another decision, and it's a big one. It has to do with birthright citizenship. It was an executive order that President Trump, on day one of his second term in January 2025, signed the executive order. It was immediately challenged, and now we can tell you that the U.S. Supreme Court has ruled against President Trump's order to limit birthright citizenship. Shannon, we have talked for some time about the president feeling that he would not win on this one. The question is, why not?
Okay. Right off the bat, it says children born in the United States to parents unlawfully or temporarily present are, quote, subject to the jurisdiction of the United States and are citizens at birth under the 14th Amendment's Citizenship Clause. So look how this broke down. As we expected, the Chief Justice wrote this opinion. Justices Sotomayor, Kagan, Barrett, and Jackson joined. Jackson has a concurring opinion in which Sotomayor joins. Justice Kavanaugh files an opinion concurring in the judgment and dissenting in part. The dissent comes from Justice Thomas. He is joined by Gorsuch, Alito, and then Justice Gorsuch apparently has his own dissenting opinion. So it is what we expected after the arguments here, and it looks like a bit of a split, but enough of a plurality coming together to say that the executive order that the president issued very quickly upon taking office is no good, and that if people are here, subject to the jurisdiction thereof includes people who are here illegally. Writing for the majority, Chief Justice Roberts says this: citizenship then and now was the right to have rights to freely participate in our political community. Talking about the 14th Amendment, the framers of the 14th Amendment extended that promise to every freeborn person in this land. That's a quote, and it looks like it's a quote back to some of the legislative debate about this in Congress. He says we keep that promise today. So a loss probably expected by the Trump White House, but it is official, and it's a thick one, so we'll keep reading.
All right, thank you so much. Let's bring in John.
We'll get back to that in a minute, and more of your calls. Mark, you're next. First, Kevin Miller, 580 KIDO.
Hello.
Hello,
Oh,
Mark.
there you are,
Good morning.
Hello, Kevin. Yeah. Well, again, the traitor Roberts has pulled his little scam on the Americans here, American people in this country, and undermining the Constitution in his own way. Like I said, he's just nothing but a control puppet of the intelligence agencies here. Amy Coney Barrett seems to be following in his footsteps. And, when you look at when the 14th Amendment was created, it was ratified in 1869. It had to do with people who came to this country, like the Irish, other people of other countries legally here. And also, it was about the slaves that were brought here and allowed them to have their children become U.S. citizens here. If you take a look at what the founding fathers of our country, none of those people on the Supreme Court have taken into account what the founding fathers in the creation of this country wanted for this country. And when the 14th Amendment was ratified in 1869, and by the way, folks, Google what it would take to undo it and change it. You'd never have it happen because of the supermajority you would need in Congress, and not with all the little socialist progressives you have now. It will never happen. You will not be able to ratify or change the wordage of it. They never, though, even back in 1869, ever envisioned the fraud perpetrated by those within this country, the traitors within our government here and country, the Chinese communists, for an example, bringing in, having their pregnant women come into our country or over the border, popping out a kid and getting all the benefits of being an American citizen automatically. None of that was envisioned. Therefore, that logically, if you take that into account, should justify changing what birthright citizenship actually means. Not anybody coming into the country and popping out a kid and going back over the border or leaving the country again, where they can come back and have their kid, born here in America, and get all the birthright citizenship and everything else that goes along with it. It's totally fraud. It's a fraud machine now. And the Supreme Court should know that. You can't expect socialists like Ketanji Jackson, who's a dimwit, half-wit, that Biden appointed to the Supreme Court to replace, what was that old hen, the old ACLU hen that died from the Supreme Court? I can't even think of her name at the moment. But, yeah, so he puts her in there. And you already know Kagan and Sotomayor would go that route. But Roberts, you traitorous, pardon my French, SOB. You are a traitor to this country, and you have helped put, in my opinion, you and Amy Comey Barrett have put the final nail in the coffin of where this country is going to end up. You really have. The only way it's going to change is we're going to see a civil war here sooner or later between the far left and what's the right in this country. Things are going to get unhinged. And Kevin, you know me. We've argued about the Bible and religion on air, but I'm telling you, what's very odd is what seems to be coming, that towards the end days, evil would rise its ugly head and do what it's doing now in our country, over in Europe, to the degradation of Europe by allowing all the Muslims and all the immigrants in there. Some of the stories I'm reading, I've sent you some of this stuff. I'm reading about the Seattle Pride Parade. I'm seeing and reading about people out there in the streets running around chasing kids around a fountain in Seattle there, naked. Men chasing little kids. Women bringing their kids in strollers so they see all this. This is like a modern-day Sodom and Gomorrah. Who is bringing this upon us? Yeah, maybe there is a devil. There is evil in this world, and we're seeing it now. And when traitors like Roberts and Comey do what they did, they're living proof that they are aiding and abetting the devil itself. I'll let you go on that. That's all I have to say. I'm pissed off, Kevin, on what's happened to our country and this world. I don't know why I got stuck here, but I am so peed off I can't see straight. I'll let you go. You have a good day there, KIDO, Kevin.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Phone number's here, 580-5436, 580-KIDO. By the way, the good news is deportations are at a record pace.
Well, being successful also has a downside, because it's like the low hanging fruit. You get the low hanging fruit accomplished, and then you got to go and really dig in and go find the people that are deeply hiding. So at some point, the self-deportation number is going to start decreasing, and we're going to have to start rounding all these individuals up. When we start going after the worst of the worst, what we found out is the worst of the worst. These are individuals that have felony charges that the sanctuary cities and sanctuary states have let go, or they have pending charges that, once again, sanctuary cities and sanctuary states have let go. When we go find the individuals, we usually arrest an additional 4.3 individuals that are with that one person with a felony. And so since we're doing a heavy focus on the worst of the worst, we're actually increasing our numbers on rounding up all the illegals that are here. We expect that number to continue to increase, but we're probably going to hit a plateau sometime early next year. But we don't, every time we think we're about ready to hit a plateau, we continue to find another area that we can increase on finding the individuals. So we don't have set speculations or estimates on next year's numbers yet, because we're redefining our systems that we have right now, and I really do think that my goal is to double what we did last year, and I think we can get there.
Amen. I know the American.
Let's go to Lucille, who joins us now on 580 KIDO.
Good morning, Kevin. Well, I see that the Supreme Court, the men in black and women have betrayed us once again. Now, I'm going to say something that is going to make me no friends, but as you know, that never stopped me from having my say. This is what happens when you put women in power. Women emote. They do not think, Kevin. They emote. And I have no doubt that Amy What's-Her-Face was influenced by the other women, and they started talking about compassion and this and that and the women's touch. I've seen it happen a million times, Kevin. I've seen it happen. And this is what happens. You cannot, I'm sorry, I know it's not going to make me any friends. But, Kevin, women and men are different, and women emote. And as long as we have women in the courts that do not have the pair, obviously, to, do tough things, we're going to get stuff like this. And then we have the other women like John Roberts. Okay, that's another story. But when you are in the Supreme Court, Kevin, you cannot emote. You have to think about the good of the country. You have to think about the law, the Constitution, okay? I think that what should have happened was that they should have said, okay, fine, yes, we cannot deport a million people from the country, but from now on, anybody who comes illegally in the country will be prosecuted. And I don't care if you're expecting triplets. Don't drop your babies here, because they are not going to become citizens. They could at least have done that, Kevin. But of course, we have to be nice. We have to be good. Heaven forbid that the left should criticize us. Some people cannot handle that. And so we have the results that we have. I'm not surprised. I'm angry, but I'm not really surprised. I'm not really surprised, Kevin. So, unfortunately, this is another, as a previous caller said, this is another nail in the coffin. And I don't know, Kevin, maybe it's the end of the Western civilization and our countries to start with. Maybe this is what happens.
Well, you got to give it to the president for trying. But 5-4, man, that is tough.
5-4. I mean, well, look at the 4. Look at the 5. Are you surprised? Are you really surprised? We know what John Robert is. John Robert is, whoever has him by the incidentals harder, that's the one he'll listen to. The women, I already expressed my thought. And who's the other one? Kavanaugh. Oh, well, apparently he's wishy-washy. He follows in the steps of Robert. So, and let me tell you something, Kevin. Why are the lefties so bent on packing the court? They get what they want without packing them. I mean, look at what our allegedly conservative court just handed them. The future of the country. Why did they didn't need to pack the court, Kevin? They already have what they want, courtesy of an allegedly conservative court. Don't you think?
Yeah. The court has always been our biggest challenge. And now, because we've had some wins, you're right. They want to blow the whole thing up.
Yeah, they throw us a bone now and then to keep us quiet. That's what they do. They just throw us a bone, just like the Pope pretends to be Catholic now and then to silence criticism. Oh, Kevin, I don't trust anybody anymore. I tell you the truth. Nobody.
That's what I love to hear. I'm with you. Don't DTA. Don't trust anyone.
No, you can't. You can't. Look what they do. Look what they do. I mean, why do we have a constitution? Why do we have laws? Why, Kevin? What for? What for? They twist and heaven say, why do we even have a Bible? Everybody twists those two things to their convenience. Anyway, Kevin, I'm sorry. I don't want to continue because I'll keep you here till Christmas. And I still have plenty to say, but I think I've said what I wanted to say. And it's a sad day for the country, Kevin. It really is. But I'll let you go with that. Mark, if I feel your pain, I'm right there with you. And, what can we do, Kevin? The only thing we can do is keep praying, which is what I do. Hopefully.
I'll be praying. I'll be hitting the prayers right after this show.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Okay, Kevin, you have a good day, dear.
Thank you, Lucille. God bless. 580-KIDO. Kevin Miller, you're home for Fox News now. 580-KIDO.
Hey, a little side note. I mean, we know the justices are compromised, but now, this is something I read on the internet, so maybe it's true, but it sounds true. So when Amy Coney Barrett was nominated after Ginsburg died, guess who the office was that actually pushed Trump to nominate her? Mitch McConnell. The office of Mitch McConnell was calling Trump the day of or the day after Ginsburg died. And so Mitch McConnell is the one who really pushed Trump to nominate Amy Coney Barrett. And old Justice Roberts, good old boy, he's in the Epstein files. There's a picture of him standing in the water. This is probably 20 years ago, but, he's compromised, blackmailed, whatever you want to call it, allegedly. But, yeah, he's standing in the water with Bill Clinton and several others, on Epstein Island. So we know he's compromised. So we know Amy Coney Barrett's probably compromised with money. She's probably bribed or something. But, yeah, it's pretty sad. Sad state of affairs. And Lucille is right. I mean, everything she said was spot on. They throw us a bone every once in a while. And then they turn around and do something, completely wrong and out of character. So I don't know. I think I'm hoping that a lot of people are waking up and seeing through this, Democrat lunacy. And, hopefully people are waking up. I don't 100% agree with everything Donald Trump does. I mean, I'm not somebody that, I'm kind of like Large, if I see something that he's doing, I don't agree with every single thing he does. You know what I mean? He's a human being. He's flawed. But he's the best hope we got right now. And there's only, we're going on 2 years left. So, they better get on it. And I'm not seeing anything happening. For example, like Ilhan Omar, why aren't we deporting her? It's already been proven that, she lied to get into the country, marrying her brother and all that stuff. Plus, she's involved with all the fraud. Why aren't they arresting her? I don't understand. It's like the evidence has been everywhere for years on a bunch of these people. I mean, I've been seeing this evidence back before Donald Trump was president the first time. We've known about all this stuff for years and years. Why are they dragging their feet? We don't know. I mean, there's so many people that Obama put into the institutions. He's completely ruined the institutions by inserting all of his people. He's purged the military. He did all kinds of stuff. So maybe that's what we're fighting. Maybe that's why Donald Trump can't push through some of this stuff, is because there's all this pushback from all these lunatics in the bureaucracy. I don't know, but I think some people need to be arrested just on criminal charges. And I just don't like it that these politicians and these billionaires, criminal billionaires, they're untouchable. And I don't think they should be untouchable. If me or you committed any one of these frauds, they would throw us in prison quicker, really quick.
They would. We'd be out.
Yeah. So, I don't know. We just got to keep praying. That's what we got to do. We got to change our perception. And, the people as a collective, if everybody came together and just, let's put aside Democrat and Republican and just think about common sense and what's good for the country. If enough people collectively come together and refuse this garbage, including the AI data centers, I don't think they're for AI. I mean, maybe partially. But if people come together collectively and refuse this stuff in different ways and leverage the power of the people, we can stop them. But we can't be divided like the country is now, I mean, there was a time when Democrats and Republicans worked together for the better of the country. There was a time. It was a long time ago. But I don't see the Democrat Party as tainted and ruined and, a bunch of Satanist weirdo people, so it's tainted. In occult practices, the left-handed path is the path of Satan. So, the left. Anyway.
Eric, thank you. Thank you for the call, bro. Appreciate you on 580 KIDO. And let's move on. Wow, this guy, he's back again. Al is back. Tell a friend. Good morning.
Good morning. I just had to acknowledge the greatness of Lucille and honor her because she has a great mind and she's a great thinker. Okay, and I don't rag on women. It has nothing to do with women.
Well, yeah, you do smack the women a lot.
Let me tell you.
I have women all the time saying, "What is this guy? Misogynist Al?" They call you.
Well, let me tell you this. I guess Lucille knows a little thing or two now, doesn't she? And so it's Lucille who basically is reflecting exactly the truth. Exactly the truth. She's got a great mind, and that's the type of woman that we need in this country. A woman who understands reality, okay? And the reality with this decision is really, look, in the old days, nobody would have ever thought when they were writing the Constitution that you give people free stuff out the wazoo. Everybody gets free everything. Okay, so what this really is, it's a violation of the Fifth Amendment, the Takings Clause, because I guarantee you, everybody in Idaho can't afford to buy a house, can't afford to buy anything. Well, guess what's happening? All these people who are coming here, the government is just printing money just to pay for all these people. Okay, there was no such thing back in the day during when they wrote the Constitution. Nobody would have ever thought, you're going to give everybody a free living. And so now we're giving everybody a free living. So now everybody's going to come here. It's a violation of the Fifth Amendment, the Taking Clause, no question. I mean, the whole thing is rigmarole, and it goes back to what I said previously. Look, it's the Save America Act. It's this, immigration. It's the entire Marxist feminism. And, all of these things come together. It's just they're destroying America. They want Marxism. Okay, these people are moving towards just cultural Marxism. There's no question about it in my mind. And they're destroying our military. They're destroying our government. They want to be just like these European freakos who are destroying their cities. Look at Berlin. Look at London. Look at all these cities just totally destroyed. And that's exactly where we're going to be, too. But, the whole thing is, guess what? Al's mean. He's saying things. No, it's not about being mean. It's about getting in the face of these loser bureaucrats. Because I guarantee you, as we go forward in this world, okay, your progeny are going to have butterflies flying up your diggy, and those butterflies are going to be Chinese drones, okay, with a shape charge explosive on there if we don't turn it around. Okay, but they don't seem to have enough sense, common sense, to realize what's going on here. Okay, we're hollowing out our nation. We're hollowing out our nation. Printing this money. We financialized everything.
All right, Al, thank you for the call. Let's go to Tea Party Bob, who joins us now with Kevin Miller at 580 KIDO.
Is he going to be a good Tea Party Bob or a bad Tea Party Bob?
That is yet to be determined.
Yes, I agree. Well, Lee Joe hit the nail on the head today when he said that the money rules and the corporate entities have assumed power in our state. And our legislators and constitutional officers are not doing anything to curb their influence, as they have been bought and paid for with their political PACs. And I read an article recently by Mr. Lenny, who brought this entire problem to light. And I say, look at what's happening here with Micron, this new plant they're building with $6.1 billion of our tax dollars, mind you. It was Governor Little's team who flew to Chicago to pitch expanding Micron in Boise, and soon after signed the Semiconductor for America Act, giving the sales tax exemptions on the construction of this new plant. This Micron facility is worth $2 billion, and they paid only $3.1 million in property taxes in 2024, which, if you take a good hard look at it, is about what we are paying. Actually, it's more. We pay proportionately for our housing than they paid for their property taxes. Truth be known, Micron's bill shrinks as our tax bill grows. Why are we stabilizing a $1 trillion corporation, Kevin? Looking back on it, it was Representative Little who warned about this type of corporatism when he was a state representative. I remember that because I was here when that happened. This is big money taking care of big money. Tommy Ahlquist is building a 920-acre industrial park off I-84, which will serve Micron's suppliers, while 10,000 homes are planned. And it wouldn't surprise me if Little approves a casino, and I wonder how many of those 10,000 homes will be affordable for Idahoans. Al talked about the takings clause. Ask yourself the question, who will get the jobs for these huge projects? Will it be Idahoans? My bet is most of these jobs will wind up going to H-1B.
Yeah, well, okay, so wait a minute. Where was the opposition? There was no opposition to this.
Exactly,
people, right, but people can complain and stuff, but it's too big to even fail now. This is going to rewire the state of Idaho. You take a look at what's going on in New York. They're having issues with regulations. I didn't hear any. I know our congressional delegation didn't vote for the Chips and Salsa Act. I don't know, if there was any opposition in the legislature to this, but we can talk about it and this, that, and the other. It's here now, and it's going to be a huge magnetic economic engine. Plain and simple.
Of course it is. But what is it going to do to this state? What is it going to do to the Treasure Valley? You know, if you
it's going to create a
remember-
lot of jobs and a lot of infrastructure is what it's going
Well,
to do.
let me tell you what it's going to create. It was Alquist who supported the Home Builders, Dairymen's Association, and Farm Bureau that supported illegal immigrants working in Idaho, taking jobs that would normally go to Idahoans, because they don't think they should be bothered with the E-Verify Act, disqualifying illegals. This same group even went so far as to release a study about how foreign-born workers prop up Idaho's construction, ag, and hospitality industries. What did our governor say about this? Absolutely nothing. And the only winners are Governor Little, who gets to brag about the Micron facility, Alquist, who gets the land deals, and the Home Builders Association and Micron.
You see, but again, you're whistling in the breeze.
No, I'm not whistling in the breeze. I'm talking.
You
to
are,
people
because
going on.
tell me besides you who has a problem with it.
Why don't you ask your listeners?
Yeah, okay. Who has a problem with it?
That's the question. The people
I would say
should have a problem.
They don't.
Lee Joe sees it.
Lee Joe's off in the woods. No, Al's singing. So that's two people and you.
Oh, wow. And so when do you think it's going to change? You're not helping.
It's not. Thank you for the call. Look, we can scream and yell, but it's not going to change anything. You had our entire congressional delegation not vote for the act. You can have people, whatever. People want to be behind a company that has jobs and is providing everything else. We can publish papers and talk about things. It's not going to change. And you can call me whatever you want, but I have been the tip of the spear for quite some time. And in my new role as the umpire, I'm calling balls and strikes. I don't even know how we got onto this subject. But the bottom line here is, and look, I wrote about this. You have people that are proposing data centers, and then you have people that are proposing keeping the farmland, the old versus the new. And you could talk about Tommy Alquist, but the Alquist company is one of the big successes. They're building everywhere. And you want to talk about the real winner of the 2018 gubernatorial campaign? It was Big Tom and Tommy. You can be mad and Senator Lenny can publish papers, but in the end, you're just whistling Dixie. If you can even say that anymore. There is no resistance except Tea Party Bob. Now, I would say maybe the Republican Party, instead of going after good Republicans, should take a look at Republicans that are raising taxes. Instead of attacking, and it's an opinion-based show. We can agree to disagree. And you can be mad, but and again, I disagree with those folks that went before the legislature. And they said they need the labor. How about this? They won 14 proposals that went nowhere. And besides Theo Wold, you had none of them selling it to the people. The people in hospitality, construction, medical, and dairy, they went out and worked. So the bottom line, dear friend, is it's not you that continue to fight. It's that no one is with you. No one. Because you go back to the Troopus quote, you go back to everything else, and you're going, well, Kevin Miller, why aren't you ripping? Because it doesn't move the needle. Let me just be very clear to all of you. We are an opinion-based show. We are a conservative show. But we read the tea leaves fairly well. And we can sit there and talk about the grocery tax that, thanks to Howard and Ron, not Ron Howard, in Payette, and look, I predicted this. There are very powerful people within the Republican Party that want to keep the grocery tax. Their reasoning for it is it's going to be a loss of revenue. Fair enough. That's why it went nowhere. You had people saying, hey, we're going to support you, and they didn't. Okay, I'm not going to vilify these people. We're going to try to be adults and say that's not the will of the people. It goes down to if people had a problem with the governor, you can agree with him or not, he would not have been elected, reelected, and soon to be reelected again. Unlike his predecessor, the very charismatic, talented Butch Otter, there is no little fatigue. I could sit there and rail against the Department of Education, and we can, and you can give people the facts. They're not buying it. This is not one of those states. This is the Mountain West, where people want to be free and not be hassled and go in the woods. And I don't know how long that is going to last if the data centers take over. But it's impossible. And look, I've taken on presidents. I've taken on all sorts of things. Getting on and railing and saying, attacking me or others, I will throw this out. 580-5436, 580-KIDO. I don't believe that anybody has an issue with this deal. And the big winner, well, two of them, Governor Little, who worked behind the scenes, and Mayor McLean. That's the issue. That's where we are. And Tea Party Bob and I, we go back and forth all the time. I'm not saying he's wrong. I'm just saying the people aren't with him. And just because we have Senator Lenny, very gifted, very talented guy, very conservative guy, publish a letter, that doesn't mean that we're, blah, blah, blah. Because in the end, my whole vibe here is protecting the integrity and the viability of this program. If this program goes away, I'm out. You guys just call a new person. Kevin Miller, 580-KIDO. We've had Lucille. We've had Mark, the watchdog of Eagle, talk about the topic at hand. We've had Al saying that he doesn't bag on women from his second call of the day. We've had TPB rail against corporatism. But as I've said before, it's corporatism that makes this state work. And that's the new vibe. It's the dream of Butch Otter that Governor Little has, and maybe it wasn't Butch Otter's dream, but it began with, Republicans that have a very pro-business side. And you talk to anyone, no one has a negative view of what's going on here. And, here we have this huge issue involving the Supreme Court, and we're talking about something else. The bottom line here is it's a great day for Idaho based on the Supreme Court, and it's a challenge at 580-5436. It's a challenge of where we are concerning birthright citizenship. And like I said, you have people that put up, and like I said, we can call people names, but it's not convincing anybody at the ballot box. Let's go back to the people that we had a news conference that was very factually based, where people said illegal immigration is a problem, and we need to do something about it. We're going to pass 14 bills. They went nowhere. You can blame Jim Guthrie all you want, but that's the system, and it's frustrating. And then you had people from the industries that employ people saying, "Hey, man, you need to stop the we need the labor," which is really a microcosm of the whole situation. And President Trump, the Republican Congress, has not solved the problem. Just like when we talk about how great the state is, and you have one or two Republican parties, maybe five. The president's son comes in. We don't really talk about it through the official parties because we don't like people. We don't like those people and all sorts of nonsense. And it's crazy. You have a contentious hearing and stuff, meetings, and it's all just one and the same. But until people feel the pain, like what's going on in Meridian. Look, I could be like every slappy around and slurp up these politicians. And I think to myself, man, am I missing something by not, just being a microphone for these guys when they're talking about how tough they have it? No, I am a person of principle when it comes to the taxing and the spending, and Republicans have to believe in limited government. But Meridian, under the current leadership, in my opinion, has become Little Boise. And raising taxes, it should be an embarrassment of these local politicians. Now, again, are they bad people? No, we agree just to disagree, and so be it. And we see this again. We expose the Boise mayor. It's the bread and circus thing. People bred at the circus paint curbs and, do all these social media posts that say absolutely nothing, and the people will buy it until it impacts them, sadly. But we can, we look at the Ada County commissioners, we could agree to disagree with them. They have to raise taxes. So until there is an accountability group, an accountability league, this is how it will continue. And people will work more and get less for it. Sadly. And there's a lot of pride in Chobani. There's a lot of pride in all these businesses. And the governor will tell you, look at, and it's true, the scoreboard, California, Oregon, and Washington. What they have on? Jason Rance yesterday filling in. Jason must be auditioning for something, but he had the Spokane congressman on. I'm sure the nation really wanted to hear about that. And they're talking about how much money they're losing to the state of Idaho. Now you come into Idaho and we talk about how bad we have it. In comparison to those folks, we're rolling, and business-wise, we're rolling. You could say the state of Idaho has embraced Reagan's trickle-down economics. And we can get mad and get angry, and who's not mad and angry, but it's not going to change anything. And a lot of people say, at least we don't live in St. Paul, Minnesota.
So I'm Somali. I'm proud to be Somali. To me, being
Well, we can't really do that. She's basically saying, a St. Paul resident saying, I'm Somali. To be being Somali isn't just eating bananas with rice, quote unquote. It's kind of like bananas and rice. So again, at least we're not celebrating Somalia Independence Day. We are getting your reaction. And again, this is why we have Clay and Buck, voices you trust, Sean Hannity, none bigger, Lars Larson on live today, Glenn Beck, the recap, George Norrie overnights to stay with you. As these big stories happen, you can call in and react, and of course hear from the great newsmakers. If I know Clay and Buck, Riley Gaines will be their first guest. And this is an issue that Clay Travis, before he was Clay Travis, which was very detrimental to him, but it worked out. He was on these shows debating people all the time. And now today, thanks to Idaho and West Virginia, but thanks to Idaho, little girls are going to be protected, at least in this state. And let's give another prop to Jeremiah Dickey of Boise State. Remember, you had, who was it? Was it San Jose State? Was that right? You had the biological male playing women's volleyball, actually injuring people, and they said, not here in Boise. We are going to forfeit that. Good luck in the Mountain West. We'll be seeing you. They decided not to be a part of that. And, I really don't understand, feminism and everything else when we have people going, well, we've got to protect women and we've got to do all these things, and then you will let that happen. Again, back to the big things, birthright citizenship, 5-4, man. So very close. So very close when you're thinking about this. Amazingly close. At 580-5436, 580-KIDO, we will have to see how it all plays out. Like I said, really enjoyed the program today. We are here tomorrow. We are here on Thursday. Once again, I want to thank everyone who had a chance to go to the Boise Music Festival. Really appreciate you supporting it. We move on to the Spirit of Boise Balloon Classic for the Kevin Miller program at 580-KIDO. We move on to Idaho Patriot Thunder, which will be July 26th at High Desert Harley Davidson. I think I'm going to actually have a little special thing. I'm going to pitch them on something special. We'll see how that plays out as well. Looking forward to supporting Operation Homefront and, of course, the Idaho National Guard and all of our great people that do such wonderful work. Okay, we've given you the announcements. We'll have more of your reaction as we roll. A dead week, but not so dead with the Supreme Court. What a season it has been. And again, the president, through his nominees, has changed the course of history. We're very proud of him. We're especially proud of you. Good day. God bless. Keep the faith. Kevin Miller loves you. Now go take on the day. Laura.
There's no better way to celebrate July 4th than front row fireworks views and dancing along the San Francisco skyline with City Cruises. Get out on the water and save 20% on select cruises in honor of America's 250th anniversary. Enjoy delicious meals, live DJ entertainment, and epic festivities on the San Francisco Bay. Skip the crowds and take in the fresh air. Save 20% at citycruises.com/San Francisco.